Remember, we gotta wait a couple seconds.
God, I hope that works. We didn't come all this way to fuck it up now, you know?
Welcome, everyone. We are back.
You sure?
Yeah. My name is Amos Joseph. I'm joined by my friend Brook Potter, who is in the UK, and this is the 10K Rum Podcast. How's it going, bro?
Season 2 of 2020.
Season 2. Are we calling it Season 2?
Well, I fucking did. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So how's it going, Brooke?
It's going well, Amos. I have definitely missed this. We have been off the air for a month, 2 months. Give or take, I think, yeah, something like that. We missed Christmas. We missed the impeachment of Trump. World War III. Is it 3 months? God
yeah, it's
damn
been
it,
3
man.
months. Yeah,
We suck at this, man. Yeah, the Glorious House of Gaines has surpassed us, man. They're on like episode 90 something. We got to catch up.
Yeah, I don't even remember what episode this is. What episode are we at?
Yeah. 76, I think. I think this is 76. So happy New Year, Merry Christmas, compliments of the season to everybody who might be listening and we missed the opportunity to do that. Out here in the UK, it's a lot of exciting things going on, Amos. We have a new prime minister who just won a majority. Looks like we're going headfirst into Brexit for a change, and we're about to have winter for the first time, -2 degrees Celsius today. So yeah, we're coming in hot. How are things with you, Amos?
Going well. It's actually snowing here right now.
Oh, you bad boy.
It's been snowing the past couple days on and off. There was a full-on blizzard on Friday night. Now it's Sunday morning, and we got it's dusting out there, kind of. But
did you have to dig your way out of your house?
No, I've never had to do that before in my life, and
that happens though.
That does happen. It'll happen in different states. Minnesota doesn't have that happen quite as often. Our friend to the north, she might deal with that more often.
I saw some pictures of our friend in the north in her cabin, and dang, the amount of snow they got up there, it's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy. I know that driveway. So our friend Sue from up north, her resort has a long dirt road leading up to it, and there are times, she said, where she'll just get snowed in, and gotta wait a good few days before the plows come through, or someone with a plow comes through and clears that road.
That's crazy. I mean, it is a beautiful place. If anybody is interested, what's it called? The Wilderness Lodge?
Wilderness Lodge in Big Fork, Minnesota. Definitely check it out. Tell them we sent you.
Tell them Amos and Brooke sent you.
Yep.
You probably will not get a discount, but you know it's nice to know that we're thinking of them, right?
Exactly. And speaking of snowed in, Edward Snowden's book sales are being confiscated by the feds.
By the feds? God, we have so much to talk about, Amos. Where the hell are we going to start, man? We're not going to finish this show until next year.
It's going to take us at least 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you're rightly saying there's so much going on. Obviously, with out here as well, we've had the Meghan and Prince Harry shenanigans that's been going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've had any confrontations with that, but we could definitely get into it. So where would you like to begin our recap show? I mean, is there anything else going on in your life before we get into it, or?
No. We'll talk about different things later. We'll leave all the other stuff at the end here. I mean, last major episode, you and I were talking about. I know. We had that whole long show talking about the impeachment, and lo and behold, that actually happened. Big surprise.
It hasn't happened. It's moved to the Senate.
Once it's moved to the Senate, it's officially, like, you could call it, officially notarizes. The impeachment has happened. It's the trial for removal that comes later. So the whole thing with impeachment, that why it wasn't official was because they didn't send it to the Senate. But once the Senate takes it, it's official.
I don't think it's quite that easy. So the House brings the charges, and they are officially charges. Like, look, and anybody can be
Well, yeah,
charged.
So the impeachment is the charge, is what I'm saying.
Right,
So
right. So he
so
hasn't
the
actually been
charges
in.
are official once it's sent to
Yeah,
the Senate.
but he hasn't been convicted in the sense. And if you're charged, you
True.
have to be
So,
convicted.
but
So
he has been impeached.
right, in the sense he has been, the charge of impeachment has been laid against the president, and now
Right.
comes
No,
the
that's what I'm
trial.
saying. Like
Yeah,
I've I think I explained it before. The impeachment is kind of like a formal write up of a job.
yeah. Exactly.
Um,
You're not fired
and
yet. It goes for review.
right. But he has had the write up is on his record already. Once it's
Sure,
out of the
sure.
House and into the Senate's hands, it's official. And then, there's the whole thing where they, they were walking down the, between the chambers of Congress, that whole somber sort of, ooh, it's so serious. Did you see, what's her name? Kamala Harris. What happened with her?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually followed much of American politics. There's so much going on
So
over here.
there was an interview with her they did on the news, and it was basically they went to her, and it was like she didn't know she was live, so there was a good like
Okay.
3-4 seconds of her like laughing it up with her friends, and then it
Oh,
cuts, and then
really?
she sees the light come on the camera, and she immediately gets it's
She
very
gets all
serious.
stoic and yeah,
It's very
gets all
serious. The
puts on her
charges,
political face.
this is some of the some of the most this is obviously very intense, very important. These are pretty serious charges against the president. Like, and it's just showing like, and then of course when the people have seen when Pelosi was counting the votes of the impeachment vote, she um was like trying to calm down her colleagues, kind of like, hey,
Right.
don't show you're so excited, but they're all obviously very happy about this.
Yes. They are. In
uh
fact, she was so happy she did commemorative pens for the signing of the impeachment. Did you see this shit?
oh god. And then I think someone said, well, of course it took her a while to sign and send over the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Her impeachment pens were in back order.
Yeah. Hey. As far as we know, that could actually be the legitimate reason why this didn't go forward. But for those who don't know, these commemorative pens are generally reserved for landmark legislation, usually passed by the House and the Senate. And when they sign off on it, so like the Affordable Care Act, for instance, which was a massive Obama piece of legislation, you can get the commemorative pens of those who signed the legislation. And it's usually reserved for really big, public relations related events. But for some reason, the Democrats have done this with the impeachment letter to the Senate. Kind of out of character. Do you think that's in good taste? Is that really helping the Democrats?
I think it's in horrible taste. And here's the thing: it's like regardless of what you think of impeachment, if you agree or disagree with it, it was obviously very much a partisan move, and it very much changes the standards of what is an impeachable offense for the president. It just becomes, people kind of say, "Oh, you can impeach the president for anything," and while that's not
That's technically
necessarily
true.
true, it's not supposed to be true,
Yeah.
but this basically made it more true.
Well, again, to be fair, you can charge the impeachment to the president. He hasn't been impeached yet, which is, it has to go through the Senate. But you can lay the charge of impeachment for basically anything. It's basically, it's calling foul at the end of the day, but then you refer to the referee whether it really was or wasn't, depending on your
Right,
sport.
right. And
But you're right.
I
They
mean,
really didn't have anything.
yeah, it's making it. Well, first, it's very likely he will become the first president to be reelected after being impeached now. Um,
Yeah, more than likely. Save
yeah,
something drastic happens. I think you're on point with
right.
that.
It's extremely likely, and then it's just, I mean, it's Trump derangement syndrome is just becoming the norm, I think.
It's pretty incredible. Even the Alex Jones of the left, was that Rachel Maddow? I think is her name. I don't have cable, so I don't see MSNBC. I see clips from her.
Right.
I mean, she's been getting it wrong now for 2 or 3. How long has Trump been in office? 3 years? 3 years going on 4? Yeah. She's been getting it wrong on him for 3 years. She's been screaming and screeching at the hills. Russia, his taxes. I can't even remember. I mean, mostly Russia, right?
And you said screaming at the hills, and I'm just thinking the hills are alive with the sound of screeching.
Trump winning. But yeah, she's. I mean, and I think her ratings have completely tanked because everything that she's kind of gripped to has fallen apart.
Well, mainstream media in general has pretty much tanked,
imploded. Yeah. Actually, when we talk about what's going on in the UK, I'll definitely get into that because it's a fucking shit show over here.
Yeah, and you guys still have to pay for that.
Yeah. Well, thank God Bojo, our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, he might actually put that into review. That he actually says license? The TV license, because a lot of senior citizens can't afford. It's about £180 a year for the house kind of thing, which is, it's sizable. But if you're a retiree and you're on benefits, that kind of lifestyle, living off your pension, that's a lot of money. And a lot of the senior citizens are arrested. This is a prisonable offense. Not paying your license results in senior citizens being thrown into prison. I mean, and most of them are women, if you want to go down the identity politics row. So I think it's being called into review. Like, really, you want to imprison, the greatest generation? It's like, these are the World War II vets and shit. It doesn't look good.
That's so weird.
You got
TV police?
Well, it's propaganda. They don't really have. We had these. Well, I mean, I wasn't here in the 80s, but they had these propaganda pieces with TV vans that drove through your neighborhood, and they could tell you, oh, the TV is in the living room, and they're watching this channel, and that's all bullshit. But they do have inspectors that do random calls on different houses. As I say, when you buy a TV, there is I don't know if there's a notice or something that goes back to the BBC, and then they go and they say, hey, we might stop by at any time. These inspectors might stop by at any time. And that's how they do. They knock on your door and it's like, all right, let's see your license, mate. Like, what's going on? Oh, my
gosh. The freaking, the license, the UK license meme. I mean, you've probably seen plenty of those.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them.
That people have the really shitty, you got your license or whatever. I don't even.
Yeah, mate, you got a license for that license. It's so bad. It is so
butter knife
bad.
License.
Well, I mean, a butter knife is now an assault weapon out here. So, I mean, we see clips of the police out here rounding up these dangerous weapons, and there's a bunch of fucking scissors and butter knives and, letter openers and shit like that. But no, but I mean, back on the impeachment of Trump and stuff like that. Who's your Chief Justice? So the Supreme Court Chief Justice resides. What's his name? I can't remember his name. Young guy. Well, relatively young.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, anyway.
Shows what I know.
I know he's stepped in and he's, signed off that he's going to start the trial and stuff like that. So what is the time frame? Do you know the time frame on this whole thing? Because this is going to be a circus. I think it's the end of Biden, as far as I can tell. And given the shit show between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, I think they're pretty much out as well. So, but yeah, we'll get to that. Do you know the time frame?
The time frame for
the impeachment?
Not really. I mean, I just hear, usually when there's some major development within it, I'm hearing about it. Otherwise, I'm just kind of I'm not following it that closely.
Okay.
A lot of my friends on Twitter will probably follow it a lot closer, just because they're on Twitter so much. They might as well be playing the stuff in the background.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I had a few conversations about it with people, during our little hiatus there, and the big thing that it comes down to, and a lot of people were, of course, it's a very divisive topic. I know people that are on both sides of it.
Sure.
Even when you and I had the chat on our show, you definitely changed my mind on different things. And the way I look at it is now actually I'm not really even on taking a side per se.
Sure.
I've just seen it as more of the shit show that it is. So I think it's kind of the good Trump, bad Trump, but for the most part, don't really believe much in like president's abilities to really make any big changes.
No,
Not really. I mean,
it's not going to do very much.
I mean,
at the end
you
of the
definitely
day.
probably see a lot of changes like with the markets and such. With what Trump
Yes.
does, but I mean, in general,
Everyday life is not going to be affected by this.
right? So I kind of see it as um, I guess I'm having more of more apathetic in some ways when I see a lot of
No, that's
political
good.
stuff. So
I think you
I kind
represent
of
the
see it
majority of
like,
the country.
oh, and I kind of laugh at it. Like, I'll just tell you this. There was someone I've been there's some people that I know who I've talked to. I've spent a lot of time talking to people, trying to help some people with different things. Basically, some people that I know have been making certain decisions that aren't the best, and I basically told someone like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if this, and this happened to them?" And it wasn't anything like really detrimental or anything. It was just like bad decisions someone was making, and then they were like, "Why do you think that'd be funny?" I said, "See, it's not funny like ha ha ha,
Haha.
so funny that you do it. It's more like funny like watching a dumpster fire burning brighter, burning hotter. It's just like the way things go, the way people behave. I kind of see a lot of it as like funny."
Sure. Sure. And I mean,
Um,
yeah, I understand what you're saying in a sense. People make decisions, and you're especially a person who could kind of connect the dots, and you can see, well, could lead to this, to this, to this, to this, and then that might actually happen. Like those dots might connect, and the outcome.
Impeachment has basically been made to be a joke.
Yes, it has not been served best in this scenario. Well, let's see. Let's see what
Like
happens.
and then this is what people also don't really look at. So during the whole impeachment thing, you had the Afghanistan papers
Yes.
that basically, without a shadow of a doubt, said, "Hey, this whole war's shit." Like everyone kind of knew, but like this is basically the government's like admitting, yeah, this whole war was not supposed to happen. This is all
Correct.
just a political posturing. Okay, so you get that, and then you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
the whole, and that's happening during impeachment.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it has nothing to do with Trump, though. That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like you have all this stuff that's basically kind of getting under the radar,
Yeah.
while all this, as
Pomp
our
and
friend,
circumstance.
yeah, bread and circus going on in the background, and then you
Hmm.
have, I didn't even know the Patriot Act got extended again.
Oh, did it? Okay. Surveillance. Are we being watched by the
Yes,
NSA?
I mean, so you got that, and then there was the whole news story about Snowden, of course, in his book sale. So, for
Right.
those who don't know, basically Edward Snowden published his book, and because he didn't submit his book to the CIA and NSA for basically like a review to make
Clearance.
sure he's not breaching his NDA.
Yeah.
Somehow they're still honoring his NDA, um, non-disclosure agreement for those who don't know. And then yeah, and so they said because he didn't go through the proper channels, his book, all his sales, all his profits from his book will be confiscated.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, I mean, I think he's pretty much admitted, like, yeah, I mean, at least the book gets out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And once it's out there, it's out there. Even pirated copies and other things like that. So that's never going to go away per se.
But it doesn't help him in any way
No.
financially if he wants
No.
to
I
do
don't think that
anything
was
with
his
it.
goal anyway. I don't think he was trying to get
Yeah, it's
rich.
not his goal, but at the same time, it's like, could have at least helped the guy. Like, I mean,
Yeah. When has the government ever done that?
yeah, and it's I mean, I think people are trying to say like, oh, they can't do that because of him being a whistleblower. He has certain rights, and it's like, but then they try to invoke this NDA and security pro. It's like the. I mean,
Technically, that's right, though. If you sign an NDA, it doesn't matter whether you're a wanted criminal or not. You do have to kind of. So it is a way that they could catch him on that, legally speaking. I think
it's
he's
like,
actually.
hey, I caught the government doing all this really illegal, shady stuff, but
Yeah.
the government's like, yeah, you can't tell anyone because you're breaking the law. What?
Yeah. That's basically what an NDA is for.
Is to
you know,
prevent people from exposing people breaking the law.
well, not entirely. It's also like trade secrets. Like if you know the
Oh
recipe for
yeah, yeah,
Coca-Cola and shit like that. Yeah, sure, I get that. But yeah, of course, there's a flip side to it. As with everything a lawyer concocts, there's two sides to everything. And they're right. Yeah, if you sign an NDA, technically, it's the same thing. Like they busted Al Capone, the gangster, for what was it, tax evasion or mail fraud, one of the two. Like
tax
a
evasion.
misdemeanor. It was tax evasion. Another one there was mail fraud, and these kind of roundabout ways of getting people convicted. Trust me, the government is very good at that.
While Al Capone is birthed from prohibition as a
Yes,
criminal, and it's kind of like a serves you right government for trying prohibition as a thing. At the same time,
still
I'm kind
against
of
the
like,
law. Still against the law, though.
yes, and then so I look at it and go, really, like
Yeah, I agree.
you guys are having this unconstitutional amendment
Well,
in
it was
place.
constitutional at the time.
But it was
It was
later repealed.
it was repealed. It was a destructive amendment. What was it? 14th Amendment, I think.
14th Amendment, I think. No.
No,
Probably
that's something
later
else.
than that.
Anyway, so
13th, 14th, and 15th was the
the
post-Civil
voting,
War,
right,
post-Civil
right,
War
voting stuff.
Reconstruction. Anyways,
Yeah.
um,
So yeah, as you say, at the time it was illegal. That was the government's job. Some great things came out of the prohibition, including drag cars. The whole souping up your car to outrun the feds and shit. That started because of prohibition, and now we have NASCAR. So brilliant on them, man. The Tommy gun,
the
the
Tommy
gin
gun.
still, gangster movies. I mean, all of that shit came out of prohibition, man.
I remember this comedian I heard. He said it's funny how like criminals were so different back then. Like
Yeah, I'm probably sure.
before well no before before sort of when we started looking into DNA and looking into just ways of investigating a crime, like he basically had this whole bit. It was really funny. Like imagine like a crime in like the 1930s and 40s where they walk in and sir, we found a pool of blood of the killer on the ground. He goes, oh, gross, clean it up.
Exactly.
And he goes, now back to my hunch.
Yeah,
And then criminals who rob banks would like dress up, no masks. They drive up and then they'd say like, and if they ask who robbed the bank, just tell them it was, Little
whoever.
Bobby
Yeah.
or something like that. And then they would like have their Tommy gun and shoot the name Little Bobby like into the walls, like telling everyone what they're doing.
Yes.
And they would just run away like 2 blocks away. And yeah, we got the money. Like,
yeah. I mean, if we want to look at the evolution of crime, in fact, England is a very good example of what you're talking about. England, again, de-gunned. There's not a lot of firearms out here. Self-defense is illegal, and all this other kind of crap, right?
Right.
When criminals actually do act out here, it's like that. It's like brazen, bold-faced, in the daylight. They don't give a shit because they know there's no consequences, right? They're not really going to get caught. And that's basically how it was. At the turn of the century, early 1920s and so on, the crime rate must have been minuscule. And when you came to the time of Al Capone and stuff like that, and Prohibition created the mob, right? Basically created the underground criminal aspect. The regular police and all these other kinds of things couldn't handle it. In fact, I believe that's how the FBI basically got started, is that they realized
it's funny how what is it, the most prohibitive
Prohibitive? Yeah.
Bleh.
Yeah.
Prohibitive, the most prohibitive amendment or law pretty much put out by the government created the rise of basically modern day crime.
Organized crime.
Organized
Completely.
crime. Yeah, Jesus.
And
It's
and
like,
and
what?
I do believe I'm not sure when the FBI was established, but I'm pretty sure it was around that time when they basically understood that look, the criminals have organized, and in typical fashion, the government is late to the
Right.
party. They had to kind of get their act together, and in the local policing was no longer enough to deal with the crime
Right.
situation. So yeah, there you go. The FBI. That's another invention of prohibition. I might be wrong. I don't know if it is around that time, but it sounds about right.
It's, yeah, I mean, maybe not during Prohibition, but definitely during, like, because of the rise of organized crime.
Yeah, it was Herbert
Um,
Hoover founded the
yeah.
FBI, I think.
Wait, Hoover?
Was it Hoover?
Well,
I think so. Because it was the Hoover Institute, wasn't it?
something. I mean, it makes
Anyway, it
sense
doesn't matter.
because that's when like crime started. Well, organized like crime started to cross state lines.
Yeah.
That's where the FBI
Yeah.
comes in, is when there are crimes that are like, okay, it's not just one state. It's like
Local
they have
jurisdiction. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And that was it. They stepped up so violent during Prohibition. And I mean, back then it was basically Bobby cops, right? You had maybe a revolver and a baton. The worst thing you're gonna do is, slap a little kid for stealing some candy and like take kittens out of trees. And then suddenly you get this criminal element, organized, boldface, Tommy guns. The police were completely taken kind of off guard with that whole scenario.
Right.
And that's actually what's going on here in the UK right now with some of the criminal element out here. It's they're outgunned. Not even the police are allowed to carry guns out here, unless you're like part of a SWAT team or that kind of thing. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. What do you guys got going on over there?
Oh, we got a shit ton going on. So quick answer then. Is Trump going to be impeached? Yes or no?
Hold on. Like you're throwing out the word impeached. You're asking,
Is he going to be
removed?
No. You could be impeached and not removed. You know that, Clinton.
Well, no. So we established the impeachment. Once it's sent to the Senate, impeachment has already happened.
Right.
It's removal that they determine removal.
Right, which is okay. I understand what you're saying in that respect. So is he going to be removed? Yes or no?
No.
Right. Okay. Well, fair enough. Then the impeachment really doesn't matter.
Because yeah, we talk about impeachment is the proceeding,
is the charge.
Is the charge, and the charge has already been filed and it's been sent over. Now they review, and then they determine removal.
No, it's not just removal. It is actually if it is an impeachment. Because with Clinton, they did find him guilty in the Senate of impeachment, but did not recommend removal.
Wait, they actually voted to remove him?
Yeah, there was a vote to remove him, and they said no, he's guilty of the perjury, but they didn't recommend a removal. They did not think that was big enough a crime to remove him. That's
basically office. So. Yeah. That's weird. So it would have been, so he was voted to be removed, but they chose not to.
Yeah.
That's basically like impeachment with a little extra. So he had been impeached before it went. Well,
I'm not sure it's as easy as that. I think the impeachment comes from the House. It comes from the Senate.
No, impeachment comes from the House.
The charge comes from the House.
An article of impeachment.
Right, which is the proceeding.
Articles of impeachment have basically been officially filed and done.
Right, but that doesn't mean he's impeached. That means the trial can begin. So that's the charge. It's not actually you've been impeached. It just means the articles of impeachment are now moving to the Senate, where they will have a trial.
God damn it! I gotta look this up now.
Yeah, we should have researched this before the show. But that's the whole thing. That's what Trump wanted. He wanted the trial because he's going to call Biden to the stand. And basically, if Biden, who is on record, on video, doing exactly what they're accusing Trump of, that's the end of Biden. And that's what Trump wants.
Impeachment is a process where impeachment is the process by which they're leveling charges.
It's a
Impeachment
charge.
does not itself remove the official from office.
Correct.
So
It's a charge.
right. So whether or not
you can have the charges dropped, which is kind of what could happen in the Senate. So anybody could be charged, right? Anybody, you could be the wrong place at the wrong time, and they'd be like, oh, well, he's the suspect, and they arrest you and they charge you with whatever crime.
right.
But then you go to the courthouse and they basically say, well, look, he wasn't even there, or the DNA doesn't match, whatever. And they say, well, look, we dropped the charges. So until there's an actual conviction, which would be the Senate puts their ratification to it, he's not impeached. They've just charged the president. And anybody could be charged.
Right. So being impeached means being charged.
Right. No. Being impeached means you go through the whole thing and you're convicted. You've been charged, you've been found guilty, and you're convicted.
But it says that impeachment is the leveling of the charges. It's not about the determination of guilt.
Right. It starts in the House and then it goes to the Senate, and the Senate is the court. Basically, that's where the trial, for want of a better word, takes place. Well, it is a trial, and they determine whether the impeachment has teeth
what
or
I
not.
read, this House is supposed to do the investigation.
Right, but the trial of all the evidence that they presented takes place in the Senate, which is why the Chief Justice is stepping in at this point. He oversees the trial of the impeachment hearings.
I was about to say, technically, I thought the Supreme Court was not supposed to be involved in impeachment.
No, he will. It's not the Supreme Court. It's just the Chief Justice. He will reside over it. It's a trial, and you get to call witnesses. And Joe Biden is going to show up, and he's going to have to explain how all the Ukrainian shit. And if that is a legitimate thing, then Trump is actually justified in asking for an investigation. That's the thing. At least that's my understanding. I'm not saying I'm right. I could be completely talking out of my ass because
I'm now I'm gonna look this up. So,
yeah, we probably we'll do a round 2 in the next show, man. It's like we'll get back to it and figure it out.
Okay, Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution gives the House of Representatives the sole power of impeachment.
Yes, and impeachment is just a charge. That's all it is.
And the Senate has the sole power to try impeachments.
Correct. So one is the charge. So the Senate is the court.
So here's the difference. Impeachment has already happened.
Right.
The trial of whether removal will take place is what happens later. What happens in the Senate?
He has been charged. He has not been found guilty. So the impeachment has not happened until the Senate tries the evidence, and they will say whether it is actually an impeachable offense or not. So the Senate is where it's at. They have the final say.
Impeachment is only the first 2 stages.
Yes. It's a charge. It's just like if you get charged with anything else.
So impeachment, it says, and conviction during the second stage requires the concurrence
of evidence.
2/3 of the members present. Impeachment does not necessarily result in removal.
Correct.
So this is
you could be impeached and not removed. So you could be, which what happened to Clinton. He was impeached, but he wasn't removed. So it's just a charge.
Impeachment is an indictment.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't mean he has been indicted. No, he hasn't been. He's been charged.
Impeachment faces a second legislative vote for his conviction.
They have to prove it. They have to prove it in the Senate.
Well, I know that. That's for removal.
No, it's for whether the impeachment sticks or not. As I say, the Senate decided that Clinton was impeached, but did not remove. They're the ones who decide whether the charge actually sticks, whether the indictment actually sticks. So he hasn't been indicted. He has an indictment against him. That has yet to be proved, and that happens in the Senate.
So here we go. 3 United States presidents have been impeached by the House.
Yes.
Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson was the first. Yeah. Nixon resigned before he was impeached. Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Possibly.
Johnson and Clinton were both acquitted and not removed from office by the Senate.
Yes. So the impeachment is just the charge. So all three have been charged, but they've been acquitted.
Yeah, but you're saying charged, and the word, the constitutional term for being charged
is impeachment.
Impeached.
Right.
So, yes, Trump has been. This is just a problem with definitions. I'm not saying he's been removed or not. So,
no, of course not.
He has been impeached, but he hasn't been removed. That's the vote that comes later.
But
so there's three stages.
Right, but
impeachment
it's
means
not,
if you got the second
you can
stage
also be acquitted, meaning that they could say that the impeachment doesn't matter, that he hasn't been impeached. They can overturn
you can be acquitted from being removed from the charge.
No. You can be acquitted from the impeachment and then not be removed, or you can be impeached and not be removed. Both are decided by the Senate. Yeah, so it's not just whether there's removal or not. It's whether the impeachment is legitimate or not. It's like this. You get committed. Somebody charges you with murder. You go before the court, and they decide, no, it wasn't really murder. It was accidental manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter. You did it by mistake, right? So they will drop the charge of murder, but as a result of the involuntary manslaughter, you have to pay a fine. You're still punished. But the charge that they originally came with, which was murder, was unsubstantiated. So it's the same thing. The charge of impeachment comes to the House.
Right.
Comes from the House. They're basically saying he's guilty of breaking the law. The Senate then weighs it, and they will determine whether that is legitimate or not, whether it is a legitimate impeachment or not. You can be impeached.
Well, we're talking. I mean, we're not discussing legitimacy though. I mean, because it's a matter of
yes, we are.
No, we're discussing as a matter of if they voted. So if they did they have the hearing, they do the 2/3 vote. Once the 2/3 vote is completed and the articles are sent to the Senate, impeachment is already completed, is already done. The vote is only to determine if they should remove. So removal is stage 3. I do think it's
more than that.
Impeachment is the first two parts. So once the first two parts, hearing and charging, voting on a charge.
Right, which happens in the Senate. We're at the second stage now.
No. We're in the third stage.
Because I think there's more to it than that.
No, the first stage is the impeachment hearing.
Right, from the House.
Yes, and then the second stage is the vote from the House.
No. The first stage is the impeachment hearing, and they send the articles to the Senate. You haven't even mentioned that. That is the second stage, is the Senate hearing.
No, I know that. I'm saying is you have the hearing.
Yeah.
So you have the hearing, and then you have the vote from the House. That's stage 1, stage 2.
Okay. Then it goes to the Senate.
Stage 3 gets sent to the Senate.
Right, and then there's another vote. So that's a fourth stage, and then they decide whether he stays in office. So it's not just 3. It's not just 3.
So
the 3 that they're talking about is in probably in that reference is it goes from the House to the Senate, and then the Senate decides whether he stays in office or not. Those are stage 2 is actually where we're
what
at.
I'm saying, what I'm getting at is removal from office is determined by the Senate. That's not in question.
Correct. I completely agree.
What is encompassed in the definition of impeachment is if the charges have been sent to the Senate. Once it's sent to the Senate, impeachment is officially complete.
Okay, cool. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because it's not concluded until the Senate speaks, because they could acquit it, or they could basically say there's nothing to this.
Yeah, because and this is the problem that people have been trying to with understanding impeachment. They think impeachment equals removal. No, impeachment just means charges have been voted upon and officially documented as impeachment. So
Correct.
Yes, he is impeached at this point, but he has not been voted to be removed, because that is a whole separate proceeding.
And the impeachment might fail in the Senate. They could actually withdraw the impeachment and basically
the Senate is reviewing the articles of impeachment.
Correct.
To determine if there should be removal. So the articles of impeachment have been already.
No. Look at Clinton. The Senate decided the impeachment stuck. They said, yes, he was guilty of perjury. There was enough evidence to support that. And then they decided, no. So they could acquit it. They could basically slap down
Now I gotta
the
freaking look
impeachment.
up Clinton's impeachment.
All right, let's move on, man. We don't want to spend because we have a lot to cover at this point. So what we'll do, Amos, we will both research it and we will get back into it next week if you want.
So really, now I don't understand. This isn't like a debate. This is really just
I know. We didn't expect to get stuck on this point. We don't want to spend the whole hour or however long going over like definitions and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get a blowjob from an intern.
No. Get a blowjob from an intern. Just don't lie about it under oath. And don't have them drag the dress from the dry cleaners in as evidence.
And then find out the DNA matches.
I know. It's so fucking funny. What's going on with the Oscars, man? Did you watch any of the award shows? I know the Ricky Gervais.
Well, that was the Golden Globes. Golden Globes is basically discount Oscars.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a prequel to the Oscar. I don't know if you've watched any of the award shows or anything.
No. I watched his monologue, and he made all the really smart jabs at the sort of elite of Hollywood.
God, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
I think people were pointing out that there were only like a handful of celebrities that were caught on camera showing themselves like genuinely enjoying it, like Adam Driver, a couple of other.
You can't think of that many conservative actors, can you?
Well, it's not even conservative actors; it's just actors that had a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Like people that basically have been in the business enough to know about the things that happen, like. I remember I was listening to Rogan was talking about how it was hilarious that so Rogan did a TV show at one point, right? Not Fear Factor.
Yeah.
But
News Radio. No, yeah, besides that. Yeah.
He was in some like sitcom, and he said he even heard way back then of like weird stuff that would happen in Hollywood. Like he heard a lot about Bill Cosby. He said he would hear about, like, it was just funny, like, a lot of these Hollywood people, like, they all know about a lot of these things and people and stuff, and it never gets out. Like, it's shared only among them, and it doesn't really get out anywhere else. Like, the whole Weinstein thing.
Who was the teenagers back in the 80s? Corey? There were
Corey Feldman, I think.
Corey Feldman, yeah. He spoke out about it. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened. I mean, you gotta look. You actually have to really look into it to find out about it. You can't just. Do
you really have to look that hard? I don't know.
Well, no. I'm saying in terms of like the mainstream, how it's looked at. Like it's not something that is talked about commonly. Like, I mean, people actually had to go dig up that video clip of Epstein, the exposed clip. Was it ABC? One of the some news anchors, some like morning show person. She said,
okay, she actually found out about it before, and
they were going to publish a story, but then it was
a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And someone caught footage of her like confessing to saying this, like that. Either on some commercial break or some before mic. It was just something like that. It was just like, what? Like, so you really gotta like. It's not that the information's not there. It's just it's not commonly put out there because it is. I mean, the internet is the internet, so not much can really be hidden. But
could get buried. I mean, there's so much noise.
But that's the thing; it can get buried by other things. So people who have a bit of an initiative have to like go in and look for this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, granted, it's not that hard to just type in evidence about Epstein or confessions about Epstein or something, but
right.
You actually have to go find that. You're not going to find that. Excuse me. You're not going to find that on like Twitter necessarily, depending on who you follow. You're not going to find that on the news. You're not going to hear about any like celebrities or anyone really talking about it.
Generally speaking, yeah, I agree. I mean, the few have. Corey was one. Even remember Milo Yiannopoulos? He did a expose about he's been to some of these Hollywood houses and people had these very young boys kind of in the house.
But the thing is, you actually have to go out and find that. And most people, most of the population is not the kind of person who's going to go out and find this.
I agree.
They're going about their lives, and when you bring it up to them, they might, show an interest. But for the most part, they're not going to actively seek out like
Oh
what
no,
is
I
going
agree with
on.
that. It's completely
I mean, the only way like the Epstein didn't kill himself meme got out there is because it became a meme.
correct.
Things
Correct.
have to become memes for people to really take notice.
Like pay attention. Yeah. Do you remember back in the day? God, I don't know how many years ago this was. The whole thing about Coney, like let's capture
Coney
Coney,
2012.
Coney 2012. You remember that?
Joseph Kony was some like dictator in Uganda
Somewhere in
or something.
Africa. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
he was
he had like
supposedly like recruiting kids for soldiers and
yeah.
yeah. This is the problem with internet campaigns. I don't think they ever caught him. I don't think it really made a difference.
Well, there was a lot of talk that he maybe just died.
Possibly. Again, did you follow up on Coney 2012? Did
Well,
anybody?
there was a whole talk of like it being a scam, and then the founder
Yes,
of
I
the
heard that
movement
too.
like got really
He got
screwed up.
caught. Yeah, he got caught in some shit. And again, these internet campaigns, some of them are kind of really flighty. But I think you're completely right. Most people are bored. Well, not bored, but they're just trying to live their life. They're not looking to expose pedophile rings and try to capture Ugandan militia and all this other kind of thing. They just want to get the recycling bin out, mail, whatever, and just live their life. So it's unfortunate because the child sex ring in Hollywood is a very old story, and nobody cared. Right? Even all of these, bleeding heart progressives on The View and all that kind of stuff. Did you see when Donald Trump Jr. went on The View and basically confronted Whoopi Goldberg about being friends with all the Raymond Polanski, the director.
Roman Polanski, yeah.
Yeah, he went. I mean, yeah, I thought it was a 12-year-old girl or some shit. I can't even remember. But nobody really cares. Nobody really cares on this stuff. It's all virtue signaling nonsense, which is terrible.
Our friend Kunk in the chat, the birds aren't real campaign. Have you heard about that one?
the surveillance pigeons.
No, like the whole. You never heard of that? The whole thing, birds aren't real.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like robots that spy on us, right? That's the premise. It's a CIA plant or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Birds as a species don't exist. It's all surveillance.
Yeah. So the chicken I had today, it's just is processed soybean.
Exactly. That's how they're really getting the soy into your body. I mean, there's whole shirts about it. Birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real. Yeah. Actually, there was a joke in one of the Doctor Who's before it turned to like a progressive pile of steaming garbage, where one of the directors of the agency was just talking. I think she was having lunch and it's like, the pigeons are looking a little sluggish. We should probably charge them, like they need a power up sort of thing.
Oh, God. Have you ever seen a baby pigeon? I rest my case. Yeah, exactly.
Good one, Conk.
I mean, yeah. Have you ever actually seen
nuts.
a bird?
I mean, I can't remember. Anyway, I think chickens are real. Yeah, let's think about that. Yeah, I think chickens
they're
are
not
maybe
really,
the rest of them
they're
are
not really birds, though. Think about that. Because they don't fly.
Right.
So penguins and chickens are real, but the rest of the birds.
Penguins don't fly either.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so they could be real.
They could be real, but flying birds is not a real thing. What about bats? Do we include bats in this?
Maybe. I mean, they're
Tough
technically
one to
flying
say.
rats.
Yeah. Tough one to say, man. Tough one to say. So let's touch on the everybody's red pill darling at the moment, which is the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Was it Markle, whatever her name is?
Oh, well, not red pill darling. I was like, red pill darling. What are you talking about?
I mean, everybody in the red pill community has had a slice at this. I think even Ryan Stone was kind of like, okay, enough with this. We're gossiping. This is bullshit kind of thing,
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing came up because, I mean, everyone kept bugging Rollo Tomassi about it, and then he's like, fine, I'll talk about it. But then because he talked about it, everyone else wanted to talk about it. So it's just like, okay, so we're all going to talk about this now. I haven't kept up too much on it. All I know is, I mean, she's basically red flag central for a wife. taking him away from the family, like the royal family hunt that they do, taking him away from pretty much any traditional, like conventionally like masculine types of behaviors and activities that the royal family engages in, just traditionally has always done. Now they're, I guess, giving up their royal status to go live in Canada.
But it's being taken from them. The Queen is removing their title.
Because they're moving to Canada, right?
Yeah, because they're stepping away from the role, and supposedly they want to live independent of the royal duties. So yes, the Queen is taking back the title. I think it was Duke and Duchess of Sussex, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's and they're moving to Canada, I think, right? They're not going to the US.
Yeah, so it's just and then there was some video clip I saw which is hilarious where was it Prince Harry, right?
Yes, Prince Harry.
Yeah, he met one of like some executive from Disney, and like tried to like mooch up to him and kind of like, hey, did you know my wife does voiceover work? It's like, wow. Like, I mean,
can we get a job? Could we get some monies, please?
Yeah, because I mean they're completely like, unless you're like stepping away from royal status for some like greater purpose, like whether it's to like go help kids in Africa or something, or or you're like let's say so there's some like big war and like one of the royal family members like goes off to go serve, so they give up their royal status so they can properly serve in the military or something like that. Like,
I mean, they both served in the military. Harry and William both.
But
served.
I mean, in terms of like active duty, like actually out there.
Yeah, they were actually there in Iraq.
They don't give up their active. I mean, they're
no.
Oh
no.
So if they're killed in battle, they're just.
He's still Prince Harry. Yeah, he still had it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Probably be a very valuable target.
Yeah, if they knew. Yeah, I think he flew helicopters in Afghanistan, either Iraq or Afghanistan, one of the conflicts. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, he was still Prince Harry. In fact, I think most of the royal family has to serve, or should. I don't know if they have to. But yeah, if you fail to uphold the royal duties, that's when you're stripped of your title.
Right. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
You think Harry sorry, friend Conk, you'll think Harry commits suicide or the royal family suicides Mark. Oh, God. I think I saw the joke, like, when they were going to the airport, they were like, avoid any tunnels.
Yeah, on the Google Maps, avoid tunnels. It's a very bad joke. Rollo was the first one that I can remember who said that early on. This is like around the time of the wedding. He actually made the point that he thought that Harry would probably end up committing suicide or something, mental breakdown sort of thing. So that's why everybody's kind of like, well, do you really still think that's going to happen? I would say, I mean, okay, so people who may not know, Meghan is like not even a B-list, more like a C-list actress. She was in that show Suits, really hasn't done anything else. I think she was there for 7 seasons. Yes, she dated a porn star, something Rex. I don't know very many male porn stars, but estranged to her father. The father ended up in financial ruin, paying off her debts. She would just run up these ridiculous debts. The dad paid it off, and then it basically left him destitute because he could not afford to pay it, and cut him off and no longer speaks to him or that side of the family. I mean, obviously, I don't know if she was married when she met Harry or she was in a relationship when she met Harry and she went out with him. There's kind of speculation to that she might have been in a relationship when she met Harry. Once divorced, I believe. She was married to a chef and she divorced him. And of course, she's, rode the car carousel in the kind of Toronto Hollywood lifestyle. And some of her best friends seems to be a lot of like internet thottery kind of things. So not a great start. And she's 38. Well, she was 38. I think she must be 40 now. When they got married,
old is Prince Harry?
He's a little younger. He was 35. So it's a 3-year gap.
What?
Yeah, I might have that wrong, but he is younger than her.
He was older. Oh, wow.
No, he is younger than her. And at the time, she was 38. So obviously, she's older now. So that, I mean, I wasn't even that big into the red pill in that time. But even I was kind of looking at it like, are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, not that she's not an attractive woman, but I mean, just look at the track record, right? And just look at what you're dealing with, right? And it was so bad that her half brother actually wrote Prince Harry a letter saying, look, this woman is a selfish, self-serving, yada, yada, yada. We just went on and tried to explain to him, like, it's not too late. Like, you can get out of this. She's going to be a disaster for the royal family and so forth and so forth. So that was even before they got married. All of that was in place before. And that's when around the time that Rollo made his prediction. And what we've seen at this point is, I mean, it's classic bipolar disorder. At least it appears in a way. So exactly what you said. She came off from the family tradition. So she's vegan, of course. And now I think he's vegan. And every year there's the family hunt, the royal family for Christmas do a fox hunt. Foxes out here are basically kind of considered vermin for farmers. So they try to cull the population that, doesn't eat all the produce and stuff like that and so forth. So yeah, that's a family tradition. And, because she's an animal lover and a vegan and, she cares about the foxes, she basically convinced him not to take part.
Right. It's
yeah, that was kind of the beginning. And obviously his brother, Prince William, who is also married, he's married to, I believe, Kate. So William is on course to be king. Harry will probably never be king at this point. But yeah, they were always the closest. I mean, of course, it's his brother. They shared in the tragedy of his mom, all these other things. And around this time, we started to hear rumors out here in the UK of a rift between the brothers, Harry and William, which is so uncanny. It is like the most far-fetched idea to really kind of wrap your head around, because those two were, two peas in a pod, as you say. I mean, literally they're from the same family, right? They're brothers. And the only thing that had changed was he married Meghan. And it was becoming a little more evident that she was, inflicting more and more influence upon him, on Prince Harry. And now, as our listeners and viewers might know, she came between him and his brother. She came between him and the family tradition. And there are a couple of videos of her overstepping her bounds, like when they went out to public events. Prince Harry is the draw. He is the celebrity sort of thing. And he would go forth and he would meet and so forth, royal protocol. The prince is introduced first, and then it's the wife. There's video of her circumventing that whole thing, and she would just go up and introduce herself to everybody in front of him, just breaking all of the rules. And she got a lot of shit in the press because of it. Not because of her race, but because she was breaking royal protocol, right? That's the whole bottom line.
Yeah, everyone thinks people are racist towards her, and it's like, no, she's literally like.
Maybe some are, but I don't think that's the majority of people's opinions out here. I mean, you're always going to have racists. Racists are everywhere. But, it was because she wasn't towing the line of the royal duties. And when she screwed up, just like any other royal, if any other royal did anything uncouth, even I think President Bush, possibly even Trump, got a write-up about kind of breaking royal protocol when meeting the Queen. So this is not unique. Everybody who does shit, even Ozzy Osbourne was invited to the palace once, and I think he turned to Her Majesty and basically asked, "Where's the bathroom? Or where's the pisser?" or something, something like that in his Aussie way. And somebody turned around and be like, "How the hell should I know?" But yeah, when you break protocol, that makes news out here. Nobody else in the world cares about that shit, but the Brits do. And
Yeah,
now,
you guys care somehow.
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of agnostic on it. It's entertaining to talk about.
And you wonder why we left you guys.
Yeah, but I mean, what do y'all have instead? Pelosi and Trump? No, the royal family's a lot sexier than that, man.
Yeah, but slowly getting picked apart thanks to this whole
Yeah,
this whole thing.
and that's the point. I think that's what Brits are most upset about. The idea that, the son of the land, the Prince Harry, all this other stuff is leaving the country. That, I think, is what's pissing people off, right? That she has managed not only to come between him and his brother, him and the family, it seems, but she's managed to get him isolated from everything that basically gave him a major part of significance. And that, to me, that's troubling. Like, I don't know if you have a lot of female friends on Facebook and such things. They think it's the most romantic thing. Here's a prince and he's given up his crown for the woman he loves, and all this bullshit. I look at it like, yeah, she's isolating him more and more and more. And everything that gave him identity, he's lost. That's not a very healthy place to be. Now, granted, he was what we would call a situational alpha, right? So it's the fact that he was a prince is what was a major draw. I don't think he's ever really had to try for any kind of relationship, right? So in his position,
and now she's with him. She's kind of taking control.
Correct, and he's completely cucked to her, right? As one of his statements was, "Whatever Meghan wants, Meghan gets." And apparently, she got into a hissy fit with the Queen because the Queen will give the Duchess a tiara, right, a crown, a woman's crown. She didn't like the crown. She wanted another crown, some Russian oligarch crown. And the Queen is like, you get whatever fucking crown I give you, bitch. Like, you do not pick the crown. The Queen picks the crown.
I mean, there have been some funny pictures captured of the Queen, like, giving some pretty stern looks towards Meghan, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, all things considered, it is a shit show. Those of us with some red pill awareness or even just some relationship cognizance can see that this is a shit show, even before it started. And while all the feminazis and, the Council of Vaginas are rallying behind Meghan, like, you go, girl, you got yourself a man and, he's giving up everything for you. Those of us who kind of know what the hell's going on, as I keep telling people, there is a reason that they're going to Canada. In fact, Fathers for Justice predicted this 2 years ago. Canada has very good child custody laws and divorce benefiting women.
Right? But wouldn't the marriage laws be limited to the laws present in the UK?
No, it depends on where you reside. So you could get married in the UK and get divorced in the Dominican Republic. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah,
I mean, people do the other way around.
No. Because you just bring it back. You bring back the marriage certificate from whatever country you had it, and you registered in whatever country you reside in and stuff. But you could get married and divorced anywhere. She would have a much stronger position if she decides to go down that road, which seems to be likely.
But see, without the royal status, though,
yeah,
she wouldn't be able to like sue the crown for money.
No. She can't get money from the crown. She could get money from Prince Harry because he does have, I think he has a trust fund, £40 million between him and his brother, kind of thing. Plus his Prince Charles has money as well, so he's on tap to inherit that if anything. So he's in a very strong position to walk away with the cash and the prizes and the kids in Canada. And I feel very, very sorry for Harry because he's got nothing in Canada. Like, what the fuck is he going to do in Canada? I don't know. It doesn't look good to me. And actually, I got shit from an ex-girlfriend, who thinks she's really smart. I think she's divorced. And, well, I wouldn't say much else than that. I'll give it away. But she got into a hissy fit about the same thing. She thinks it's all romantic. And I'm kind of like, what fucking planet are you living on? Like, everything that made him attractive to her, he's just given up. What makes you think she's going to stick around? Like, if you were attracted to this strong alpha male prince, he travels the world and, there's all this other kinds of stuff. And then he turns into like, a basement dwelling, PS4 playing, 60-pound overweight douchebag. You going to stick around? And I kind of spin back on her. Isn't that what happened to your ex-husband? Like, didn't you leave? Didn't you leave your ex-husband because he was no longer this, that, and the other? Right? So, I mean, yeah, for those of us in the know, it's not great. Let's just say that. It's not great. What say you?
Guys have killed themselves for less.
It's true. It's true.
Or it's maybe she does divorce him and maybe he luckily doesn't get completely raped by the divorce courts and kind of scampers back to the crown and sort of, you would hope he gets received back as prince in some sense of shame, like kind of goes back, like, reluctant, not, they kind of reluctantly give him back his princehood. I don't know.
His princeliness.
His title. So he's gonna, his title. So he's basically gonna like, there's gonna be a divorce. He's gonna get pretty screwed. I mean, maybe not so bad because obviously he has people that care about him. But he's gonna basically sort of go back to the UK in disgrace and probably just be like, seen as sort of the dumb prince.
Well, I think he's always had that title.
But I mean, just more so, like, like he's sort of the like he goes back and just kind of, awkwardly
he
sitting there like, hey, I'm the
with
one
his
that,
tail
like,
between his legs.
Like, I'm the one that literally gave up my title to go be with a woman. She screwed me over. Now I'm coming back and trying to act like nothing happened.
Yeah. It is good. I hope that's as bad as it gets. I don't really want to hear of him committing suicide or anything like that. I hope it just, if it is to end, because maybe we're all wrong. Maybe something is really going on. Unlikely, but I think you're right. I think it's going to end up in divorce. It's going to be a shit show. It's going to be pretty messy. Especially, I don't know. Have you seen the pictures of Meghan and her friend out in Toronto?
No.
Okay. So one of the things that I think Richard Cooper or somebody pointed this out to me. If you're with a girl and her best friend is a slut, you should be wary of the two of them kind of hanging out, right? Because like birds of a feather flock together, kind of thing. And if you see the kind of women that she's hanging out with in Toronto, now mind you, she left the UK, went to Toronto, left Harry back to basically clean up the mess. They didn't consult with the Queen before they made this decision. They just put a statement out on their website and then boom, it's just all happened. She left the kid, and she's out in Toronto doing God knows what. And pictures of her showing up with these women that look rather provocative, that look rather, kind of crazy. There's even a picture with her and some very hot yoga instructor doing exercise, and they both have their feet up in the air parted, and they're doing some kind of it just looks ridiculous. It looks very suggestive. Let's just say that. Yeah. So it's not looking good. That's all I can say. It's not looking good. I know you guys in the US don't give a shit about this.
Well, we kind of do. I mean, I'm only hearing about it through the red pill. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't really care. I mean, I mean, we freaking went to war over this kind of shit to just be more than once to just be like, fuck the crown. and now you're tagged. London police are gonna rush in through. What'd you say about the crown?
No, well, not. I haven't said anything. I've been very agnostic at this point.
No, I know. I mean, what are the things then? I mean, are you allowed to say "fuck the crown"?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think it's as bad as the U.S. Like if you threaten the president in jest, the FBI comes and investigates you. I don't
Oh, I've
think
seen some interesting
that's
videos
here.
about that. Like people in
Yeah,
plain clothes showing up at your door and just start
yeah.
talking to you.
I think
So
some
yeah.
comedian got in trouble with that the other day.
Well, I saw a video recently. It was like the Secret Service and a local police officer showed up at someone's house. Police officer was wearing like a bulletproof vest, but plain
Yeah,
clothes underneath. And then there was a guy who said he was the Secret Service, and he just had plain clothes and a binder, and he's like writing stuff down. This lady's
yeah.
like, "Am I being charged? Am I being detained? Do you have anything on me? No. Okay, bye."
Right. Am I being detained?
Well, no, I mean, she actually went through it properly. It wasn't like a stereotypical, "Am I being detained?" It was more like, "So what are you here for?" "Well, we want you to, we're asking questions." "Well, what questions?" "Well, you wrote this on Facebook." "Okay. Is it legal?" "No." "So you have nothing on me?" "No. But we just want to ask you questions." "But I can refuse." "Yes, you can." "Okay, bye."
I mean, Conk is saying in the chat, the TV show quote "whitest kid you know" got into that with the threat thing. I've never seen that show. I don't know what
Whitest
that is.
Kids You Know is a lot of funny video clips. They did a lot of like sketch comedy kind of stuff. They had some pretty provocative stuff for their time. They had something. Uh, there is. I'll tell you one. You'll get a kick out of it when you watch it, even if I tell you what it is. So it was called The Grapist.
The what? Sorry, the grapist.
The Grapist. So there was a guy. Basically, it's a guy in a conference room, like pitching this new product to a company.
Right.
And he says, "I got this new like fruit juice, this new grapefruit juice, not grapefruit, but grape juice that I'm going to pitch and I want to sell to kids." He goes, "Well, what are you going to call it?" "Well, I'm going to call it The Grapist." Well, no, sorry, actually, no, I did it wrong. It's new grape juice. And then he goes, "Okay, we got this commercial for it." And so it's like these kids being chased around by this guy in a big grape costume. And he's like, "I'm the grapist, and I'm going to grape you in the mouth."
No.
And then the guy immediately pauses the video. He's going to what them in the mouth? He's
Oh,
going to grape
jeez.
them in the mouth. And he's like, "Are you talking about raping kids?" And he goes, "No. Why would you think of that?" Like, no, he's the grapist. Grape juice in their mouth. That's what we're trying to sell.
Oh
It was
my
just
god.
keep going. So he keeps going, and it's like this guy's chasing them. It's dark. He's chasing them through the house. And he goes, "When I'm done graping you, I'm going to grape your parents. I'm going to tie you to a
Oh
radiator and grape
no.
all over you." It's like, what?
Oh no.
So,
That's messed up. Yeah, Kong just send it. Yeah, send it to me Twitter DMs. I'll take a look.
yeah. But yeah,
That's
they
funny.
did some very provocative type of sketches and stuff. But
Well, the best comedy tends to be rather provocative at the end of the day.
yeah, I'm gonna grape you. So yeah, it's crazy here, but I mean, the reality is, at least it's not to the point like you can, we're still the freest country in the world when it comes to free speech.
Yes,
I've talked to, and I want to talk about this quick.
sure.
So you and I have talked about kind of like our positions as libertarians and such, and we've talked about like kind of the difference between minarchist views, anarchist views, and such.
Mhm.
Where do you stand right now with that? Like,
Where do I stand?
well, I'm just curious,
Um,
like because kind of like when you and I first started had conversations like back, but just before we started the show, like back in 2017, and we started
yeah,
talking about things. Like I kind of found myself kind of drifting towards more and more like ANCAP,
sure,
but now I'm finding myself kind of drifting back
sure.
to more pragmatic, like not like I'm going to go back and become like a statist or whatever, but it's like I'm more minarchist.
Yeah, definitely.
And because I've been looking, I think so. I told you I was talking to one of our friends. Well, someone we were going to have on a show way back.
Sure.
Someone basically a libertarian that I know on Twitter. Everyone knows the redheaded libertarian. She made some tweet basically talking about there's a Supreme Court precedent that was set way back regarding Native Americans and the state.
Okay.
So it's funny. So basically, it was someone wanted to purchase land from Native Americans through private means.
Okay.
So it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said no, only the government can take land from the natives.
Okay.
So it basically set up a precedent that so she basically posted it and said, "Oh, conquest is totally legal, LOL," or something like that.
Right.
Basically, it's a Supreme Court precedent set to say that only the government can take land from other people. So she just posted it, kind of like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And people, well, mainly anarchists, took that as endorsing the idea. The tweet.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So it kind of went down this whole thing of, people calling her, neocon or whatever, like stuff like that, because neoconservatives nowadays are kind of like, they won't say it out loud, but they're kind of along the lines of being very warmongering in some ways. Right. And so it's not so much that per se, but that kind of led me down a trail of like really looking into sort of anarchist Twitter. Right. And I got this weird, like, I just kind of was like sitting back, like, anarchists are kind of stupid.
On some things, I agree.
While I'll agree with him all day, but taxation is theft, and it's the kind of like going against, believing the state is pretty shit and stuff like that. It's like you can't have conversations with them sort of from a stance of like the world we're in, the reality we're in. Yeah. It's like, because I mean, there was the whole talk about like, okay, so this is kind of leading into like the whole World War III discussion.
Yes.
Everyone, people talked about, okay, so they attacked our embassy, so we felt we got to attack, we got to, retaliate, right?
Right. Well, it's more than that, but okay.
But in a nutshell, it's like that was kind of the talking point. So then anarchists were like, well, embassies are built through tax dollars, and since tax dollars are theft, therefore embassies are invalid. And borders and sovereignty and because it's not private property, it's sort of state property, it's all invalid. So basically, the whole argument is ended before it even really has any way of like you can't discuss this further with them.
Correct.
And I'm not saying like, and it's like I'm not even talking about if I'm for the war. I'm just talking about, hey, they attacked. If you're using ideas of property rights, like, okay, we built something there, that's our property, that's the country's property. Someone bombs it, so we feel the need to retaliate. Within that context, makes sense.
Correct.
But anarchists want to completely pull it apart and just go, everything is just, you can't talk about any of that.
Yeah, the genetic fallacy, right? So you trace it back, and I mean we've dealt with this in our Christian past as well. It's the same people who say, well, you don't celebrate Christmas because it's pagan, right? It's pagan roots. You're not having a conversation in reality if some fucking anarchist is going to try and backtrack this all back to the illegitimacy of the state, thereby nothing is really happening.
Yeah, they literally just, because it's always the illegitimacy of the state, it doesn't matter, or it's like it's all invalid. It's all criminal. Exactly. And it's like,
hey Brian, good to have you in the chat, man. Thanks for watching.
So it's like you can't have the conversation.
There's nothing to talk about. Yeah, no, I completely
talk about. I can't talk to like so. Okay, so you want to sit there and we want to talk about the legitimacy of the state, and I go, well, yeah, we can talk about that, but when it comes down to it, like, what do you want to do? I mean, I'll post, as we call boogaloo memes all day and have fun with that. But
Right, you got to explain what a boogaloo is to the non-Americans,
oh
right?
god, so the boogaloo, it's an internet meme, but it's basically kind of like this satire take on sort of like um, revolting against the state kind of thing. Like, so the
Civil
boogaloo, yeah.
right, it's
So people
Civil
are
War.
talking
That's
about
what it
it
is. Yeah.
because of the Virginia Second Amendment sanctuary counties that are forming, and there's even like a state of emergency going on in Virginia right now because people are threatening to like
Storm the state house.
storm state buildings. Yeah. Uh, it's a touchy
Yeah,
thing because if you talk about it, like people think like whether you're for it or against it. Like I find the memes funny. I can see where they're coming from, but that's all I can really say on air.
without some plainclothes people showing up in bulletproof vests asking you questions.
Exactly. No, I mean, you
We'll
got
save
you
it for the
got you
hot
got
takes.
parts of the country that are basically breaching people's Second
Breaching the
Amendment rights,
Constitution.
and
Yeah.
even Dave Chappelle surprisingly said on some like
I saw
yeah, he was like the First
the Mark
Amendment,
Twain Award.
yeah, the First Amendment is important, but the Second Amendment is in case the First Amendment doesn't work.
Yeah. And even John Stewart was in the crowd, kind of nodding his head, like, "Yeah, really, really." And he was a big anti-gun advocate, I believe. I never watched a lot of John
But
Stewart.
yeah, and it's like people kind of think like gun happy people are just we just want to have guns all day and shoot them off into the sky all day. It's like no, but it's supposed to promote a sense of sort of vigilance and sort of keeping an eye on things, that if things do happen, which they tend to happen, people are ready.
I agree.
It's kind of
The Swiss think so too.
huh?
The Swiss think that as well, which is why they
Exact.
have.
Well, they're like I think I showed you this. Crout T, for how many videos he does nowadays. He did a video on sort of the origin of gun cultures,
Right.
and our gun culture is stems from property rights and sort of rising against sort of a tyrannical government.
Correct.
Whereas European countries like the Swiss is more so rising against invaders.
Correct.
So it's not so much a fear of the state as it is a fear of invaders. Ours is not fear, but just like we're ready to confront a tyrannical state.
Correct.
So when talking to other countries and they kind of look at us and go, "Oh, we have gun control. It's totally fine. Why don't you guys do it?" It's like, well, we have a different type. Our motivations for gun culture are different.
Is different. Correct.
You have Australia, New Zealand. Where does their gun culture come from? Taking care of farm animals.
Yeah.
There's not
I mean,
much.
there's more to it than that, for sure.
But I mean, you kind of when you track it back to like where what motivates people to own guns. What is the whole culture around it? It's vastly different from ours. We're one of the
Sure.
few that's like we own guns to make sure the government doesn't do anything.
Yeah. The ultimate reason, apart from everything else, is, as you say,
And then so they want to go and say like, oh, gun controls work so great in all these countries, and I go, wow, okay, look at this too. I can play the same game. Look at all these places where gun control turned into tyrannical regimes.
Correct. Or stabbing capitals of Europe, as we have in London at the moment.
Right. Crime turns into other ways.
Yeah. Trucks
or
of
just
peace and stuff like that.
or just the reality. Like Minnesota has pretty common like gun laws. There's not really any gun control per se yet. Stabbings are still happening way more than shootings.
Sure.
And this is not just me saying it. Like I've actually read the statistics. I've actually talked to police officers. Duluth, Minnesota. Ton of stabbings for some reason.
Yeah. Can't imagine why.
Anyways.
Ironically, London seems to have the same problem. I wonder.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so anyway, so yeah, back to Boogaloo memes. So it's like I'll I understand the sentiment, and I'll laugh along, and I'll enjoy like memes and ideas about like Boogaloo, Civil War type stuff. But um, that's not my go-to when I'm talking about real world issues.
Of course not.
Because you're talking about other countries. It's like, okay, you want to talk taxation and stuff, then, I mean, we're not the only one.
Correct.
There's other countries out there. So if we go bomb their embassy and they retaliate, that's okay. Because we're the tyrannical country. So anarchism, in a way, kind of sounds like, I mean, this is going to make me sound like some horseshoe theory guy, but some attitudes within sort of the anarchists very much reflects upon it looks a lot like sort of woke culture.
Yes.
It tends to demean the U.S. It criticizes the U.S. from a stance of it is the worst country because whatever.
Yes.
I understand. Like, I fully, they'll give me reasons. Oh, this is why the U.S. has all these problems. Yeah, I'll totally agree with you on that.
Sure.
But it's still better than the rest.
Yeah. I mean, y'all.
This is by the way, this is not a shot, at all anarchists. Obviously, not all. I mean,
sure.
we've had anarchists on the show that are very reasonable, rational people that can talk about things without spurting out about taxation as theft and just everything's illegitimate because the government's illegitimate. I get that. But it's just, well, obviously I'm saying this from Twitter, and Twitter is just a hellhole. But that's it tends to kind of govern conversations. Like anytime you're trying to talk about things, like, because I actually straight up asked some anarchists that I know that are very reasonable, like, okay, so so you dissolve the state, right? Okay, so we have this world where everyone is organizing. I said it is inevitable that you're going to have a state again.
Correct.
People inevitably organize and form another government. They say, true.
Correct.
So they acknowledge that, yes, that will happen again.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so the criticism of the failings of government rather than like pushing for this pretty crazy idea to just dissolve and rebuild again every time we don't like it.
Correct.
Although that tends to be what happens.
I was about to say, we've seen that happen before. In fact, the French Revolution is a very good example of that, where they destroyed the monarchy. They tried to institute the secular whatever, and eventually they just brought fucking Napoleon back and he redid the empire. So,
yeah.
Even in the most remote tribes of Africa and maybe some other places on the earth, there is always a council of elders used to solve disputes in a society, and that's generally
right.
And you, as you're quite right, we're always going to deflect to leaders. Not everybody's independent-minded. I think we have to have that as a reality. That argument about. I mean, let's get into World War III because we missed it apparently. Damn it!
I like all the tweets. You remember when World War III was going on?
I know, it's like veteran, meme veteran from World War III, and shit's gonna start coming out pretty soon. I don't know if Kyrgyzstan survived or not, but we'll see. The Iranian situation was interesting. As I say, it's not just that they bombed the embassy; they've been waging a proxy war in the Middle East for I don't know how long, probably since the invasion of Iraq. They destabilizing, Syria and all these other things. It's a pretty shit thing. Not only they bombed the Saudi oil fields as well. I think they attacked one of the U.S. Aircraft carriers in the Gulf. There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit that's going on. So okay, they take out Soleimani, the number 2 and stuff like that, and. Nobody seemed to give a shit when the Americans, were basically being shot up by a lot of these proxy war stuff, and when they were bombing the aircraft carrier and all. Nobody seems to care about Americans. They can die; it doesn't matter. So you take out strategically Soleimani, and I think there might have been one other person in the car, like his driver and maybe like a secretary or something. All right, so you take out these 3 people, and of course the world is outraged. Oh my God, this is the next Hitler. This is the worst thing that could ever take place. Again, nobody seemed to care when the Americans were dying. Nobody seemed to care about any of the other stuff. The oil fields burning in Saudi and all this other shit. And then I'm pretty sure that the retaliation was negotiated, right? I'm pretty certain when the Iranians launched their rockets, the Americans basically said, you're allowed to hit this building at this time and just to settle this thing. They evacuated. I'm sure there was nobody in it. All the equipment is out. Boom. The Iranians get to save face, and we avoided World War III. Great. The thing that gets me with this whole thing, right? What was great about it? What was great about the tension? I mean, it didn't last very long, to be very fair. It wasn't like the Cuban or the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis or anything like that. But it definitely got the leftists to perk up when there was the possibility in their mind, not in reality, that there might be a draft.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk of that. I know people were asking me. So there's a few Facebook groups I'm in, and I basically put out a poll to see. It got a lot out of hand because I left. You know how polls are on Facebook. If you leave it open, people can start adding categories.
Yeah.
So I left it open, unfortunately, and it turned into a bit of a
shit show.
Basically, I said, if a draft were to happen, and I said I tried to limit because it's like these very large groups I'm in with people from all over the world, and I'm like, okay, limiting to the U.S. and its allies. If there was a draft that happened in your country, would you join without question? Would you protest it? Basically, not allow yourself to be a part of the draft. So, protest some way, or reluctantly join and protest it some other way.
Conscientious objector kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, okay, I don't want to start anything, but I'm gonna like do this in protest. Like, I'll go there, but I'm like, hey, I don't agree with this.
Yeah, I'm not carrying a gun or something.
Got a whole bunch of make sandwiches responses from women, which is hilarious. That was the funny thing. I don't know if you saw like the feminist meme. So it starts as a feminist, World War III starts, and then it like feminist starts turning into tradcon women. Like
like a 1950s woman cooking, dinner at home. That was the best thing about World War III was the memes.
Exactly.
And yeah, to watch the leftists and the feminists and all these people suddenly realize, they're bad people in the world.
Exactly. I was asking people about sort of draft prerequisites, and I was saying, well, would I qualify? I said, no. I mean, technically it was like 18 to 26. Well, I'm 27 now.
Yeah.
So, and they said, well, okay, there's a thing called an age waiver. I'm like, well, how many people would they have to recruit before they would like want me?
Right. Yeah.
And then I said, well, I'm fat, and they're like, well, there's a weight waiver too, and I'm like, God damn it. I was like, you would be what's called a diet recruit. I'm like, oh,
diet. Do you still get paid?
Something. I mean, I've heard of those. Basically, there's cases where recruits basically get sent to a camp where they basically cut your weight like crazy.
Right, yeah. A fat camp.
Because they need soldiers that
bad. When you're pulling from that kind of resource, it would have to be pretty bad. I don't think the U.S. military is any kind of...
Because there's plenty of 18 to 26-year-olds.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, if I was in the U.S. or even in the U.K. when I was younger, I probably would have signed up to the military. Right. I loved military culture. I have family that has served. My great-grandfather, my my dad's side, he was in, I think, the Royal Air Force. I have someone on the other side and stuff like that. And I was all into military culture, but we have no fucking military in Trinidad and Tobago, right? We got a regiment, which is probably like less than a battalion. So it's, we've always relied, like most of the Caribbean and South America, we've always relied on the U.S., right? You guys basically protect us. The Monroe Doctrine, right?
I mean, the greatest southern border of Canada is the U.S.
Yeah.
It's the huge buffer.
To be fair, Canada is the only country that is not bordering a third world country. So they're very spoiled. They are very spoiled.
Quick question for you. So question about the draft. Do you think women should be drafted?
No, I don't think women should be in the military at all.
Okay. So there was a thread, there was a conversation going on in another group I'm in on Facebook where they talked about this, and basically someone was saying, "Well, I don't think women should be in the draft." Um, and then they said, "Okay." I said, "But," they said, "Okay, well then." It was a really weird, interesting like way of looking at it because it wasn't like a taxation is theft argument, but it was they were trying to
Right.
get into this like women shouldn't be in the military, but also women should still have a say in determining like in sort of voting on voting basically
Right.
because it was
So
because so remember the whole women's suffrage movement was tricky because it was they wanted the vote, but a
yeah,
lot of people
but
didn't agree
didn't want
because
the
the
draft.
draft
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I
So
get
then
that. I think
they
Brian is
split that.
mentioning that. Right. So let me expound on why I don't think, or if you do it, you have to do it segregated.
Well, I mean, World War II, a lot of women who were serving were in a support capacity,
Yeah,
like
medical,
nurses.
medicals. Right. So Brian, let me explain on my point because I didn't really get to get into it in that respect. The reason I don't think you should have it mixed, or rather, don't put women into the military, is because it affects the effectiveness of the military.
Oh yeah,
Right. So, and I mean, this has been kind of proven throughout when. Apart from the physical, all right, we know the women are not going to be as strong and they have to cut the PT training, and you're only as strong as the weakest link on your team, sort of thing, right? But as a result of that, like when it's a brotherhood, when it's all one gender, specifically men. I don't know if they've done this experiment with only women, but there is that camaraderie, what is it? Camaraderie? Yeah.
camaraderie,
Camaraderie. Thank you. Amongst the brothers, right?
prohibitive.
Yeah, exactly. So we're both on English lessons today. So, but there is that brotherhood, and you got your brother's back, and it's almost like a support thing. The minute you introduce a woman into that scenario, the whole dynamic changes, where every man is now vying for the attention of the woman, and it's no
True,
longer that
and
brother-hood. It's that kind of
right,
competition,
right.
right? So I'm not attacking it from an equality issue. I'm attacking it from it makes the military less effective, right?
Right. I mean, there was also the thing with not just the vying for her attention, but also like, okay, so you're out there,
She's
so
protected. Yeah,
they train you. You have pretty much two things when you're out there in the field. You have your instincts and you have your
yes,
conditioning.
correct.
Um,
Your instincts will protect the woman.
your instincts to protect a woman kick in or cause you to hesitate because you have to work it again. You got to work it with your conditioning. Conditioning is
Correct.
mission comes first, no one is
Yes,
left behind. But then
yes,
if your no one is left behind is tainted by defend the women, then you're really screwed. And then it's like, yeah, it gets really weird. The dynamic shifts. Also, I mean, this is even beyond like this. I think this is in some ways beyond the like physical thing. Like,
yeah,
okay, so you have some women that like somehow do meet all the PT requirements. You do
right.
have some that can. Um, you still have that element of the effectiveness of the overall thing. Accomplishing missions, moving forward. Not being distracted by different things. And yeah, and also, I mean, this was kind of the question with the whole trans in the military thing too, wasn't it?
Right. Well,
Not quite the same, but there were definitely, I know there were other conditions like if you're trying to create the most efficient type of like soldier, whether it's through feeding, clothing, and just taking care of them, you don't want someone that needs to constantly take depending upon their needs, taking
yeah,
medications and
like
stuff to like
hormones. Yeah,
yeah, and it's that's also a risk. If they're out there for a long period of time and they're out
yeah,
of food or rations, like what do you want them to do? Carry around their hormone injections?
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Um, Not that all cases are like that, but at the same time, it's like it's overall effectiveness. Like the military, well, whatever people might think about if they agree or disagree with the idea of the military, you still need to understand that it's one of the few things that I think the government absolutely can't just be inefficient at. You want to go fuck up the DMV, you want to go fuck up the IRS, yeah, whatever. I mean, they're already fucked up already. But the military, don't go playing around with that because of ideologies and beliefs that just get mixed into all of it, and it just gets dumb.
For the most part, I agree with that. I mean, it has become a bit of a political and social experiment. The trans thing was part of that. The homosexual thing was a part of that. So once upon a time, it was don't ask, don't tell. So homosexuals in the military couldn't ask them.
Yeah, and
right.
and for the most part, from what I've heard, that hasn't really. I mean, that was that, but I mean, did it really become a problem that they were gay?
No, it's not. I think cultural norms have moved on, where even if you are in a platoon with a homosexual, it's not going to have the effect.
Yeah, because
probably for 2 decades ago, kind of thing.
Yeah, from what I've heard, that it's still just they tend to operate just fine.
Yeah. I don't think that was a major issue. It was policy, though. It was policy that you could not discuss it. But I think culture has moved on. The trans thing was different in the sense that when you join the military, you get VA healthcare.
I mean, but realistically, though, you don't. Well, there's no need to. You don't medicate gay people. It's you feed them, you train them the same.
Yeah. I think at one point it might have been more touchy. Like people may not have been comfortable with homosexuals in their platoon. I don't think that's the reality.
Yeah, I'm just saying is when you're looking at a purely practical sense of like, okay, operational efficiency, platoons operate and feeding them, clothing them, taking care of them.
Which is why they were never kicked out. It was just a matter of if you are, don't say anything, and we're not going to ask. So they were fully integrated into the platoon, no problem. So I completely agree.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, but then when you have the whole trans thing or the rising sort of pushing of like women, it's like now you have true like physical differences, medical differences that have to be considered, and I don't think the military can afford screwing around with stuff like that. It's just like you have all men, regardless of orientation, that have to be healthy in a certain way. It's like if there's genuine concerns that they'll address with any other sort of physical or medical condition to limit who they recruit or don't recruit.
Correct. I mean, you're not going to put a bunch of.
But then it comes to these ideological stances, and it's just like different somehow.
Yeah. I mean, the military is a unique case in that respect. If it is the objective is to win wars, right? If it is to have the most effective fighting machine, either you segregate the women or you don't allow them to join. Or if they are going to join, they have to meet the same physical requirements of the men. You do not reduce the standards just because they're women. That has to be the bottom line. It has to be, if this is the minimum, this is the minimum. So if that is the objective, we'll see. I thought it was a very, I think Norway or Sweden, one of these countries, probably Sweden, or was it Norway? Anyway, one of these Scandinavian countries had like their first all-female crew of a battleship, and they fucking sunk it. Right? I would love to find that story, but I mean, there are a lot of memes out there kind of poking fun at the women. I'm sure you've seen the one with the cannon where they have to they're firing off the cannon at like a ceremony of some kind, and there's two women officers, and she pulls on the cord to like fire it off, and it doesn't go off because she's too weak. And she pulls on it again and again and again, and like she's just not strong enough.
The guy comes up
and the guy comes across, pulls it, bow.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's either it's too much work to retrain and retool all equipment for women,
Exactly. What else do we gotta talk about here? Anything that you've been doing over the past 3 months between our last show and now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of changes going on with me personally. I might be changing professions this year due to a major fuck up with some property developers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too much into it because
Yeah,
it's
I know you
one of
told me
those.
about this, so yeah.
There's some NDA stuff to it, but that's definitely shaken things up. So I'll probably only be in this office for a couple more months, or maybe longer. I might keep the office to do the podcast and other things. But what is exciting is that we recently had an election out here in the UK. I think it's the first December election in quite a long time. I think it was either the 9th or the 19th or something
I
like
swear
that.
you guys have elections more than we do.
Yeah, well, we do. Well, we don't have the same system, right? We have a parliamentary system versus what is it? I don't even know what your system is called. A presidential system, right?
The
That's
America system.
the American system. I think it's a presidential system. We have a parliamentary system. So it is different. We can call elections if there's a breakdown in government, if there's people cross the floor, they move from one party to the other and all that kind of stuff. And good to say, the previous prime minister, Boris Johnson, he won a pretty sizable majority, enough that he could finally get Brexit done, which has been great news for the country. This has been something that's been lagging on for 3 years. And it looks like we're finally getting it done. It's finally going to happen.
And here I was expecting to see Brexit being mentioned in Star Trek.
Oh, there's I don't know if you've seen the leaked scripts, but you'll see. Picard has a couple things to say about the state of the Federation. But anyway, we'll get to that. But yeah, no, that is good news. Bad news out here is Doctor Who is gone. Doctor Who is dead to me now. Well, it's been dead since season 11, to be fair. They brought it back for season 12, and it's even worse. Star Wars is dead to me. I have not seen the last Star Wars again because
we talked about it, and I pretty much just dropped all the spoilers, and you're like, "Oh, I already read all this."
Yeah, it's like I know. It's like you're not telling me anything I don't know. So yeah, Star Wars is dead to me. What else is dead to me?
Star Trek is about to be dead to both of us.
Yeah, Star Trek. I got as far as I watched STD. That's Star Trek Discovery. I suffered through season 1 to pretty much the last episode, and then I stopped watching. They came out with season 2 with Captain Pike, and I said, "Oh fuck it." Well, I do like him as a character, so I watched the last one of the season 1. Made it 1 episode into season 2, and I was just like, "Fuck this shit," and turned it off. It's like I cannot take this nonsense.
And now we got Star Trek Picard.
Oh god! By the same showrunner as the STD, so it's gonna be great. What else is dead? I can't fucking. But good news, we're getting a new Ghostbusters, so at least we got that to look forward to.
Oh right, I almost forgot about that. When is that coming out again?
Yeah. Oh, that's probably summer of this year or maybe later. And what's really funny about that is that they're completely ignoring the Woman reboot of 2016. Like that never happened. So yes, I think in the world of entertainment, it's been very good. Did you watch though the Arrowverse crossover of 2019/20?
Oh, Infinite Earth.
Infinite Earth, Crisis on Infinite Earth.
All 5 episodes, yeah.
Yes, all 5. You did?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, do we want to talk about spoilers? Spoilers, everybody. Spoiler alert if you're going to continue on, because I'm going to just because I just watched it the other day.
Yeah.
That was
start with what you think. Start with what you thought of the show, of the whole thing.
It's a little campy.
It was high camp. I agree with that.
Very campy. I did like the elements of like cameos from a lot of, because it was truly a crossover.
It truly was.
They definitely dumped a lot of money. For those who are wondering, it's the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. It's between Batwoman, The Flash, Supergirl, and the Arrow. Is there any? Oh, and DC Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow, yes.
And Black Lightning.
Yes, Black Lightning, as well as Lucifer, which is I guess that's a spoiler. You probably don't follow Lucifer, but that's on
Netflix now. Which
yeah, it was on the WB or CW, whatever.
And if you really look at it, there was a crossover even into the DCEU.
Yes, And even the prequel, the pre-movies and pre-series to the modern renditions. So
it was crossing up. So the series basically starts off with the whoever played Robin from the Adam West Batman show
back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, he basically like shows up for like 2 seconds and he's like holy,
Earth,
Red Sky of Death Batman or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like Earth Batman. 67 or whatever it was.
So he just like shows up and it's just like, and it's the guy and he's just like, holy whatever,
Yeah,
and then they had because like it was on Infinite Earth, so they're going to these different Earths trying to find the Paragons or something, and like they meet the guy who voiced the Batman, the animated series Batman.
Yeah, Kevin Miller, I think is his name or something like that.
Yep. They had him, so you hear the voice, because I've never seen the face, I've only heard the voice, but you hear the voice.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, I know what he looked like, but yeah, it's like, this is so cool.
There's that, and then there's the crossover to, I guess it's considered that the Brandon, was it Ruth?
For the Superman?
Yeah, Superman.
Yeah, I think that's it.
They cross over into that, but it's not exactly the same Superman. It's like
no, it's there is a series that's connected to. I can't remember what it is, but yeah,
but it was supposedly connected to like basically him as the movie. I mean, they should have had like a Dean Cain crossover somewhere, but oh
no, that's a different network. I think
that's why they probably couldn't do it.
Yeah, that might have been ABC.
And then they crossed over to, and of course, Supergirl, the Flash, and all this stuff. They had the other Flash. So actually, the original Flash
from the
TV
90s,
series, from the 90s.
Yeah, from the 90s.
Because it was like because we all know like the Flash. So from the Flash TV show now, the CW show, his dad is the original actor who played the Flash before. And
in the show, yeah.
And then they introduced, but he was like appearing on alternate Earths as like different versions of the Flash.
Right, exactly.
Which is a nice callback, I think.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, what else?
The big spoilers came at the end where they really roped in the DCEU. What you did mention, maybe you I don't know if you knew it or not. Robert Worrell in the very beginning. So Batman. Earth 89, and all of these numbers are, of course, the year of which these movies came out. So 1989 was Michael Keaton's Batman. Robert Worrell, he played a reporter in the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson original Batman. He was Alexander Knox. So it starts with him reading the paper, and they're actually playing the original Batman soundtrack from that movie. In the background, he's like, I hope you're out there, big guy, and closes it up, looks up, and there's the bat signal in the back. I
did not notice that.
You would not have got that because you were too young.
No, that's funny though. They really brought in a lot of big guns on this.
They covered all their bases.
And then they had the Smallville Superman.
Tom Welling.
Yep, they had him up
Erica
here, but
Durance.
Then it was like a weird little side story where apparently he like lost it. He gave up his powers to be a normal guy,
to be a dad. Yeah,
which is pretty beta, but okay.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, they did the story in the movies too, right? Where he gives up his powers so he could be with Lois Lane. I think
he gave up his powers at one point in the show, but at the end of Smallville, he's Superman. Yeah,
no, right. So that was in Smallville, but I'm talking about in the movies, the Christopher Reeve movies. He did the same thing because he wanted to have a relationship with Lois Lane. I think it was Superman 2. He gives up his powers, and he's just like an average Joe. And by the end of it, he needs the powers back.
If only they had Henry Cavill Superman show up just for a second.
I know.
They probably couldn't afford it.
Well, I think they're locked in a contract conflict at the moment, but yeah,
because of his continuing movies. There was no Aquaman. I did like so they did a Flash crossover. The DC Justice League movie Flash showed up for a bit. Like,
yeah, what was his name? Something Miller. I can't remember.
Eliza or
something. Yeah, yeah. So
It's like a very different name, but yeah, from the Justice League movies that are out now. So it was funny, like, because his suit in that movie is like a very armor type of suit,
yes,
whereas in the Flash TV show, it's more of like a smart fabric or whatever it is he's wearing.
correct. Yeah,
So they kind of interacted for a good few seconds.
not gay at all.
I don't remember.
They're both kind of touching each other's suit, like, oh wow, that looks comfortable. Ooh, that looks strong. It's very weird. It was very weird. I agree with the campiness, bro. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was campy, but
surprisingly very. I mean, it's campy, which is fine. Not really. So they didn't push a lot of stuff.
No, there wasn't a lot of politics in it. I mean, there were a couple of
Supergirl on its own got plenty of politics.
That's why I stopped watching Supergirl. I think
Batwoman just right off the bat was like,
yeah, it was, every episode she has to tell people she's a lesbian. Like, okay, we got it. Like, you don't need to say it every episode to every person you meet. Legends of Tomorrow went down that road later on. I haven't seen it, but everybody ended up with like a same-sex couple or whatever. Even like Ray Palmer, who is like the Atom, he's gay all of a sudden, and then he was supposed to marry one of the other guys, and it's like, oh, you're really pushing this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Was there any highlight that you enjoyed, like any like nerdgasm moment?
I mean,
that's
the
really
crossovers
cool.
are kind of like fun to watch.
Yeah, I think just the crossovers is what made it fun for me.
And I liked how the characters in the show are like, is this a crossover? Why aren't we invited?
yeah. Kind of breaking the fourth wall sort of thing.
Yeah. Like, but it was an interesting thing. I mean, at the end of the show, and I don't know what they're going to do with that. Basically, so Crisis on Infinite Earths, they destroy all of the Earths get destroyed.
All of the universes.
And then they have to sort of recreate a new universe, which leads to, I'm guessing it's the end of the Arrow, right?
Yeah, this is the last season for Arrow. I don't know if there's more episodes to it. I haven't watched Arrow either.
Basically, the Arrow makes some deal with the Monitor to basically say instead, because there was a whole leading up, like, okay, Barry was going to die. Yeah. And I guess apparently some other character in the other shows was going to die too. And the Arrow basically stepped in and said, no, I'm going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the previous seasons, the Monitor was testing them, and that's when Oliver Queen made the deal with the Monitor, like he will be the one to die in that scenario. And then they still haven't played this thing out completely, because it did say in the Flash, universe on the series, it did say that he disappeared at Flashpoint or in Crisis.
In Crisis, yeah.
In 2019. So they've kind of come around that by saying, well, a Flash died, not to give too much away, and which is true. A Flash did die as a result of this thing, but it was not the Flash that we have in the show, apparently.
Yeah, and then then Oliver Queen has to sacrifice himself and become this Spectre thing or something to create the new universe. But it was a new universe where all of the Earths, at least the relevant ones, were all merged into one.
Correct.
And that's what works and then they kind of lead to, some other things. Right. I didn't even get the reference at the very, very end. I was like, oh, Justice League. And then they zoom out and I'm like, oh, the other one.
The old Justice League.
The Hall of Justice.
The Hall of Justice with, was it Cleek or whatever, the fucking blue monkey or whatever? So yeah.
But they left the chair open for the Arrows for some reason. I don't know if it's just like
they left the chair open to yeah, I agree. But I like what they did at the very end, where they tied in Green Lantern.
They just used footage from the movie.
Yeah, of course they did. Of course they.
But
they
own the
fucking rights.
They're never gonna show Ryan Reynolds.
No, of course not. And they also tied in Titans, which is a series on Netflix. And there was another like Birds of Prey was I didn't watch it, but it was another DC something back in the early 2000s. Apparently there was a clip with that with when the
Well,
woman is like, "Oh,
that's
something's coming," and yeah, I never watched that, so I don't
well,
know.
Birds of Prey is basically Harley Quinn and all them, isn't it?
Right, it might have been something like that.
Because
But
right now there's like a Harley Quinn cartoon,
oh, really? I
and
mean,
it's
she was the only thing worth watching in Suicide Squad. I'm sorry.
well, yeah. There's so there's gonna be more movie, like there's gonna be a movie of her, like there's sequels to that Harley Quinn, but there's a Harley Quinn cartoon, and it's like, from what I'm gathering, it's like this very empowered and independent Harley Quinn who's trying to sort of
get away from the
escape,
Joker.
get away from the Joker, to kind of like, I'm my own woman kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, and it's a cartoon, which makes it even worse.
Oh man, yeah. Don't get me started. But no,
And
I
she's
think
this like super independent woman that's just strutting her stuff all around Batman, and he's just kind of even more somber, even more stoic Batman.
yeah. I think this season is ending though. I don't mean this season. I think this woke culture in Hollywood has
You think it's peaked?
definitely. I think it's on the decline. I think
So it's
they've been
past the
trying.
peak.
Yeah, I think we're on the decline because they've ruined everything. Like there's nothing that hasn't been. Well, I mean, Star Trek, the movies didn't really get that, but they just didn't have good stories.
The closest they ever got to really, I mean, it was so subtle. The Sulu thing,
Right.
where he like goes off with his, I guess, supposedly husband or boyfriend.
Husband, yeah. But I mean, it wasn't like a major plot point. It wasn't something they were shoving down your throat kind of thing, But yeah, they destroyed
in Rise
everything.
of Skywalker, there was the lesbian kiss scene, but that was very subtle.
Yeah, I don't mind that. If Star Trek has always been political, but it was always in line with the story. It was never something overt in your face, just because.
And that's the thing. Roddenberry's vision of the world of Star Trek was like this. It was a utopia. It was definitely that, and it had a lot of values, and they had a lot of these things, but they still had struggles.
Correct.
They still had to discuss things. They still had to figure things out. Like, why is this not right?
Correct.
Kirk didn't go around just bigot and blow up a planet. He would like try to explain it and try to be like, well, you understand why this is wrong. Yeah. But he would never do it in a way of like dismissing people. Like there was still the Prime Directive.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting too, is like the Prime Directive was this balancing, because they would still break the Prime Directive at times.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But it was meant to be like showing a balance. Like the Prime Directive became more of like a balancing thing rather than like keeping them from getting too crazy with things. Because if there was no Prime Directive,
they just do what the fuck you want.
Right, exactly. Which could actually lead to this very like self-righteous attitude. Yes. And because people called, even in Next Generation, they were like, "Oh, you're a bunch of self-righteous, Federation Starfleet people." But the Prime Directive and a lot of their principles kept them from actually going over that edge of becoming straight up dicks.
Yeah. Well, not entirely, but that was the purpose. I get it.
It was just enough of optimism and a good balance of like reality to like where they were. Yes, they were good people. They were. Yeah. Very, principled and humans, but they still had to struggle through things.
Yeah. I mean, you can't tell a story without struggle.
Right. And now it's, with the problem. I don't know if you know, I told you about this. So Jonathan Frakes did not direct Nemesis.
Who's Jonathan Frakes?
Jonathan Frakes. Riker.
Who's that? Oh, right. Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah. Okay.
So he directed all the Star Trek Next Generation movies except for Star Trek Nemesis.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
And he regrets that. because it kind of went flat. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't.
Agreed.
It wasn't impressionable or memorable. It just kind of went. It was flat.
I agree. I agree.
It was an article I was reading that was basically discussing the ideas of like, when actors get involved with their movies or shows. Yeah. And it was like Jonathan Frakes is one of those rare examples of an actor in the show who could do it. Yeah. Who understood the vision, understood the world, and made a proper sort of timeline. Regardless of, fanboys that want to criticize, like, the fandom, like the story and the canon and all this. Because I read about that too, and I thought that was funny. But now you have Picard, you have Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
He's pretty much dictated the direction of Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
And it's not working.
Well, we don't
Test screenings
really.
gone to I told you about this. The test screenings did not go well.
I didn't know that.
They did some test screenings and then they had to reshoot some stuff, and it just wasn't going well. It was very much a bit of a woke culture. I have a feeling just from the trailer and everything, there's going to be a lot of stuff about how the Federation is changing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, DS9. I know you didn't watch DS9, but DS9 brought in a healthy dose of sort of the reality of the Federation without breaching its principles. So they kind of showed like, okay, here's the Federation. They've got all this, these principles and these ideas. There's this cooperation, this sort of glorified United Nations and stuff.
Yeah.
But they revealed different things, and you've heard about Section 31, right?
That sounds vaguely familiar. That's like some Secret Service something, right?
So Section 31 was basically, it was like their equivalent of like a CIA, but more dark. So so an Enterprise, if you remember the guy that wore the black outfit that interacted with Lieutenant Reed.
I think so.
He was part of Section 31. It was an organization founded by Starfleet that predates the Federation.
Okay.
They founded it as like basically it's kind of like it was an organization that was created because of a broad definition of extreme like danger or threatening the existence of Earth or something. It was an organization that was founded. It's but it's different from Starfleet Intelligence, because you have Starfleet Intelligence and then you have Section 31. They're autonomous. They don't report to anyone, but they always serve the interest of Starfleet. They can breach the Prime Directive without.
Right. Okay.
They actually talked about, they would gather information. They had like operatives within governments of like the Romulans. They actually had Romulans, the Cardassians, and all this.
Okay.
Basically the dirty work of the Federation. So they introduced that in DS9 and actually explored that.
Interesting.
But then there were parts where you had Starfleet officers that would confront them and they'd say, you are why we need to exist. While you are out there promoting all the great ideas, we do the dirty work to make sure you can still do that.
Right. I get it.
Without being like, because we exist, the whole Federation's shit. Which is kind of like this direction I think with Picard is going, because there is like, we're going to explore the dark side and sort of the corruption of the Federation to the point that the Federation is just a piece of shit.
I fear that's correct. I've seen a couple of the scripts leaked online. I'm going to try and watch it because I did like the Next Generation. I did like that whole timeline and stuff like that. I do suspect this is going to be bad, especially given Patrick Stewart's latest outburst about how England is fucked because of Brexit. As bad as we are, at least we don't, in the UK, we don't have Trump, basically all but calling him a Nazi and all this other stuff. I don't think it's going to be good. And if that's the case, well, I've seen it happen with I mean, I liked Doctor Who. That completely went down the shitter. They fucked up Star Wars. They fucked up a lot of things. So,
Rise of Skywalker kind of wrapped up that trilogy. Oh,
yeah, in a manner of speaking.
It up to at least keep it from completely killing itself. If they do another trilogy, I sure hope they do it better.
Yeah, it was pretty evident that they didn't really plan this thing through.
Funny thing I saw yesterday. Because you kind of know what's going on in Rise of Skywalker, but so someone posted it that said Emperor Palpatine is 3 for 3 on zapping himself in the face at the end of every trilogy.
Oh, is that a fact?
So if you remember, end of the original trilogy, he gets thrown into the pit while he's like literally electrocuting himself with the lightning.
The prequels.
The prequels, same thing. And then in this trilogy, same thing, because he comes back and there's a scene where he's like shooting this super force lightning that's like hitting all the ships, and then he like directs it at Rey, and she's doing this whole like where they use their lightsabers to deflect it. She deflects it right back to his face.
Back at him.
Again.
Dang,
like,
man. When
Jesus
will you
Christ,
learn?
This guy is not gonna.
I mean, if just touching on the Star Wars really quick, Conk really made a good thing. We have to touch on the Mandalorian and the Baby Yoda. We're over 2 hours at this point. This is 2 hours and 10 minutes. I know you don't have the clock.
I know I do.
So, you do? Oh, okay, good. Yeah. So just let me know. The Mandalorian is probably the saving grace that I had for Star Wars. Didn't expect it to be. I mean, it wasn't great.
At least
it was
the
good.
universe as a whole.
Yes.
It's a side.
And I mean, a lot of that comes down to Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda, but I mean, a lot of funny things. Someone posted, so they posted Mando, and then they posted Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
And they said he has more expressions than she does.
Because
she's always just. Anyways, I was like, how did they play that where he actually has like, obviously he's not showing visual expressions, but you could. It was very. You could get it. You could get what he was feeling.
Yes,
his body
without facial expressions. Yeah,
and then of course
that's a very good actor. That's when you're
by
a
the
very
way,
good actor.
Spoilers, everybody.
Yeah.
And then
what did you think?
It was so anticlimactic when they showed his face.
Right. I get. I mean, I knew who the actor was. I saw him in Narcos. But
well, yeah, he was Oberyn from Game of Thrones.
Oh yes, he was.
He was the guy that fought for Tyrion in the trial by combat.
Right. And he died by the mountain when he crushed his head.
Oh, fucking he crushed his eyes and skull.
Yeah, it's just, and I think that's kind of like, oh fuck, I like that character. I'm kind of done with this show.
Yeah, I was joking with someone. There was another show I'm watching, and I was like, they should, imagine if they pulled a Game of Thrones and start killing off more characters. Yeah.
We probably should do an entire show about the movies and stuff and catch up. Because I mean, there's a lot of things like The Witcher. I don't know if you've seen The Witcher. That was pretty good.
I haven't. Well, I watched. I'm struggling through the first episode, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, you got to be in the mood for that. Just like when I was watching Game of Thrones, like if I wasn't in the mood for that, I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm watching it. It's kind of like now, and then we'll get into this because I know I wanted to kind of lead into like, okay, what are we both up to?
Yeah, and we got to close with the special announcement. Don't forget that.
We do. No, I just, what it reminded me of watching that? So I was like at the scene where he meets that wizard in that tower with like the whole environment on the inside or whatever. Yes. And just the way he was talking, the way everything was going, I was like, why does this seem like I'm watching like like D&D or something?
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much every fantasy is Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, and I was going to lead into that because, like, right during our hiatus, I started trying Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Surprise everybody. No, I started getting into it, and I was, I've been played with some people, and then some scheduling changes happened. They couldn't, so I do this weekly game online with some friends. And at some point here, pretty soon, I'm going to be doing a game. I would like to do it on the channel, but we'll see. I mean, it's people that we know.
Sure.
But doing it on here. So we'll see when that one.
Yeah,
because I know our friends over at Masculine Geek are... so they're doing, I don't know if you saw, they're doing a Dungeons & Dragons game. It's Drew Bay, Rolo Tomasi, and then all the Masculine Geek guys, which is Vince, Rob, and TJ. And I was surprised. I was like, because I was actually genuinely, everyone's asking, what is Rolo going to do? Like, Rolo's playing Dungeons & Dragons?
He was probably really into that back in the day, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I immediately was like, there's different types of characters and classes you play, and I immediately made a prediction like, oh, he's obviously going to play like a bard or something.
A bard, yeah, musician.
Musician. And then they said, no, he was like some elf cleric.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
There was no bard in the group.
Interesting.
Well, who else was in it?
There's one in The Witcher.
Yep, there's the one in The Witcher. I know that, and they say that, and so it's like it's funny. I'm seeing all these references, and I'm on like Reddit, and I'm in the like the D&D subreddit, and I'm seeing so many Witcher memes.
Yeah. It basically is. But I mean, to be fair, any kind of medieval, with wizards and magic and stuff like that, it's that.
Well, the thing was early D&D was heavily influenced by Tolkien.
Yes, correct.
And actually, the Tolkienists they actually sued D&D because
Really?
when in their first edition they had like the different races. So they have and now they're
orcs,
elves, humans, dwarves. Now they have to call them halflings,
right?
Because they called them hobbits in the beginning.
Right.
But they're basically the same thing. Like hobbits and halflings are the same kind of person.
Cool.
And then they kind of set up a lot of those similar sort of archetypes, how they played them out. Nowadays, when I've talked to people who've played it like since the beginning, people will tell me like it's very different because you've got like a million different races that you can play from, and then any race can play any class.
Right. Okay.
So it's like if a dwarf wants to be
a mage.
I mean, I could see a dwarf playing some sort of a spell casting kind of character. Like I get that. But it's like, oh, if a human wants to do this, or if a dwarf wants to do that, and then they started introducing like these different like races. Like there's something called a tiefling, which is like it's like a humanoid. It's a half human, half demon.
Okay.
So it's got like purple or red skin with some small horns.
Right. Okay. Oh no.
But they're not. They're not a full blown like demon. And then there's Dragonborn, which are like these humanoid dragons. They have a dragon head and they have scaly skin, but they walk around like
bipedal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
And they can only breathe a little bit of fire.
I mean, it's a huge lore. I never really got into D&D. I had a couple of friends who were really into it. And I do know it's extensive. I know it's a huge thing.
You could do something, and I know we talked about this, about you trying it. You could do what's called a one-shot.
Right.
Which is just a one-off game. It's one time, whether it's a few hours, but it's just one time. It's the adventure is just one thing.
Right.
It's not a whole campaign of like.
I'll think about it. I mean, part of my self-improvement of this year is, again, I'm trying to make more friends and get out. So if there is something like that I could go off to and like meet people, I might consider it. I don't mind being a fool. Like if I'm learning a game, I don't give a shit if I do well or not. It's about learning the game.
So. Well, the thing is, the game it's not really a game of skill as it is a game of like developing a story.
Right, exactly, and luck. Depends on what you roll.
Well, when you're rolling, it's supposed to create situations that are making it more interesting. So, like, last night I played with the group that I play with, and we were so our party in the game, we basically went to a tavern in the lower city. So it's like, well, the poor people are. We go there
in the ghetto.
We go there and there's watered down, like the most watered down beer you can get. There's literally prostitutes everywhere.
Any twerking?
Huh?
Any twerking?
No. Oh God, don't get me on that. So we're there, and basically, what was going on was our fighter in the group. We have this fighter, and he had like 25 gold of debt. Okay. So we did something called downtime. In the game we simulate a whole week of whatever we're doing. My character was doing like research. One of our other characters was pickpocketing rich people.
Right.
And then our other one, she was a bard, so she was playing music at the bar she works at.
Right.
So and then our fighter goes off doing whatever, and he accumulated some debt. So what he had to do, was to make back the money. He was going to go to this tavern and get into like a fight.
Right.
Fight for money.
Right.
So we all went with him, and then we were all doing things. He's out there, he's fighting, so he had to do these rolls to fight. Right. He won the whole thing, but he had to roll different attributes, which determined how the fight would go. So he he like rolled really high in what's called Constitution, which is like your
Right.
durability, your health. But then he rolled really low on like athletics and acrobatics.
Right.
So he's getting thrown all over the place in the fight, but he keeps getting up.
But he
keeps
could
getting
get
up.
up. Right. Yeah.
Because
He
the rolls
could take a hit. Yeah.
Yeah, the rolls are making it that way. But if he's rolling like high strength, he's beating the shit out of the guy right away.
Right.
So there's
I get
different
it.
things. The rolls make it interesting. Like people have made jokes like if you roll super low, if you roll the lowest possible, like let's say you're stabbing someone, you're lunging with your sword, you roll what's called a natural one on your 20-sided dice.
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh," and then your sword went into their hilt.
Right. It misses them completely, kind of thing.
Or or your sword gets sheathed into their sword thing. It's just like what? Or you somehow hit the wall next to you or something. It's just it makes it interesting.
You make no damage, or I get it.
Right.
I'll check around.
Get worried. Yeah, people get worried like, oh, what if my character dies? Well, you just create a new one that joins the group. I've never had that happen, but it's like people get all worried like, oh, I lost the game, or it's supposed to kind of. It's a lot of imagination. It's more about the story itself rather than like doing all this fancy stuff and trying to win. Because some people will actually. There's a joke. People will have a 20-sided dice, and every side of it is the number 20.
Right.
So it's just whatever your roll is, just
it's going to be 20. Yeah. It's going to be the best.
And it's like, no, we're not playing that.
That's funny. I'll look into it. I mean, point me in the direction of like a message board or something like that might have locations that in different areas people might be playing. Maybe there's something nearby I can go and take a look.
Right. But anyways, anything else you want to touch on?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
220.
I was almost it's 2:20.
Anything else you want to touch on quick?
No, I think we've covered the big things. I mean, there are a couple other things, but I think we'll save that for another time.
Okay, so
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
The moment you've all been waiting for. No,
the moment you've all been waiting for.
that's hopefully pretty soon.
Yeah, true.
So since we're back and we've got 6 viewers.
If everybody could just smash the like button for us, we'd really
yes. Since we are back, and this is 2020, the new decade, we're going to do something different. We are giving away a Amazon gift card. What do we agree on? $50? $50
US dollars.
$50 US dollars Amazon gift card. Basically, we'll purchase it online, and then whoever wins it, I think you send like a code, or we send by email or something. Anyways, so in order for this to happen, for you to be entered into the drawing, and all the links are of course below, you have to go to our Facebook page, and we're gonna start a thread on this right after the show.
Yes.
Actually, I could probably do it while I'm telling you this.
Do you want to do it under this video, or did you have something in mind?
What do you mean?
Because I've already posted this live stream in the fan page.
Right. No, I'll put a separate post dedicated to the drawing. So what'll happen is people will go there.
Yes.
Go to the actual thread itself. Comment whatever you want. Whether it's enter me in, or whatever you want to say. But we want you to tag two friends. Two friends.
Male or female or other.
Whatever. Whether they listen to it or not. I mean, obviously, don't just go tagging people that we know already. I mean, they already watch us. But tag two friends on Facebook to basically have them, hey, like the page. This is a podcast. Whatever you want to do, but tag them, and that enters you in.
Yes.
So comment by tagging two friends, and depending upon how many entrants, well, not really depending actually. We're trying to basically, it's obviously we want to give out the gift card.
Yes.
Also we want to also get more people checking out the show. So
correct. And when is the draw of this competition?
So the drawing is not going to be. So this is our initial start of it.
Correct.
But we're not drawing until 2 weeks from now.
Right. So everybody has 2 weeks from today, which is the 19th of the first.
So we're mentioning it today. Today's the kickoff of it. We're going to hype it throughout the next 2 weeks, including next week's show. Yes. And then the show after next week's,
Yes.
we will announce the winner. So by the drawing will be concluding, I'm going to say midnight, that is Central Time here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Midnight Central Time of Friday, the... Crap.
2nd of January, was it?
Not Friday. I'm sorry. What is it? Sunday? Saturday.
Yeah, so
Okay.
right.
Saturday, February 1st. So the midnight of that night. So it'll technically be 12 a.m. of the 2nd.
Yes.
Yeah. Of that Saturday. So anyway, Saturday, midnight. That's when it'll conclude. I don't know if I can lock the thread, but basically I'll be checking like the timestamps so people aren't entering in late. Go to the Facebook page. Obviously, like the page when you're there. But basically, you're tagging 2 friends. Encourage them to like the page as well. To check out our previous episodes. But the person doing the tagging will win, not the friends that are included. Now, if you want to share it with your friends, that's up to you.
Yeah, if your friends like and tag, they are also involved in the competition.
That is true. So basically, anyone tagging 2 people. Now, don't go around and start tagging each other.
Or if you have multiple pages and profiles, please don't tag all your fake, profiles. We want people.
Then again, I mean, there aren't too many of those out there. We would hope.
I got a couple,
So yeah. So go to our Facebook page, which the link is, of course, below. Look up 10K Rum Podcast on Facebook. Like the page. We're not checking the likes, by the way. Just comment on the thread that we'll be putting up. Crap! Like I said, I'm putting it up right now.
You put it up right now, and so you like the page. You can leave a comment, tag 2 friends, preferably people who actually like to listen to podcasts and that kind of thing. You'll really be helping us out with that. And again, the drawing date is going to be on Sunday, the 2nd. We will probably announce the winner early on in the podcast. So, I know we may have a couple people who will stick around after that. But yeah, they've got to listen to the podcast, and then we might give them about a week to respond. If they don't respond after that time, we may have to draw again. How's that sound?
And I mean, we could maybe make it a little more appetizing if it doesn't go through.
Yeah, if it doesn't go through the first round, we'll see what happens. Maybe we might spice it up a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge if and when we get there.
Yes.
So the winner will be announced on the 2nd of February.
Yep.
Yes.
$50 gift card to Amazon. That's $50 US. I believe it transfers if I just send it to whoever and anywhere in the world, as long as they have access to Amazon.
Right. As long as, unfortunately, this is only available in countries where Amazon exists. And you have to have a valid email address.
Yeah, because then, and it converts or something when it gets sent to people. Anyways.
Yeah.
Amazon has it all figured out, I'm sure, with that. Yeah. Comment in the thread that we'll be posting. Like I said, Brooke and myself, of course, we're going to be talking about it throughout the week, whether it's on our Twitter accounts, which are both listed below, or, on the Facebook page. We'll be reminding people. We're also going to be pinning. I think you can pin like a post as like an announcement or something.
Just pin to top. Pin to the top of the page is an option when you press the 3 dots.
Okay. So, anyways,
so the post is up.
I'm just comment below,
and tag 2 friends.
I know.
2 podcast friends. So yeah, guys, I think that's very exciting. We really want to try and promote the show this year. We have some interesting people who have lined up. A couple, I know of a couple people who want to come on our show, and vice versa. We might be showing up on a couple other shows as well. Again, just getting the word out there. If there's somebody you guys want to see on the show, or somebody you'd like for us to talk to, leave a comment below. Maybe we can make that happen. I think it's good to be back, though. I think that's kind of where we're at.
Gotta get Joe Rogan on.
I'll send him a message on Instagram. Let's see what he says.
We will announce the winner on our February 2nd show.
February 2nd. We'll announce it early in the show, because some people may not want to stick around for the
right. Yeah, within the first few minutes, because it's like with our friend Robert Frank. Is like, if you can't even listen to the first 5 minutes of the show to know if you won.
Yeah.
We'll announce it in the beginning of the show, and then we'll even announce it. I think we could announce it on the page after the show.
Yes, we'll do that as well.
And then just have them contact us, whether it's through wherever. The winner will get a 50.
Excellent, bro. Why don't you finish up on the house cleaning there, and yeah, is there anything else we need to wrap this baby up?
Of course, check out all of our social media links below. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below if you guys want to, talk to us, and of course, share with a friend. Click the bell icon to be notified of all of our future shows, and of course, check out our Subscribe Star as well. We're not going to be doing our Subscribe Star content right away, but we do have a few videos in there for the time being. We will start like within the next week or two here. We're not our hot takes series that we do for our Subscribe Stars, but
juicy topics we can't talk about in public. So yeah,
so imagine we're already talking. I mean, we already talked about some pretty spicy topics as it is. And imagine even more unfiltered.
Not safe for work, channel.
Exactly. So we already have a few videos up on there. So do check that out. It is a nice way of supporting the show. Or of course just participate in the giveaway. So thank everyone for joining us, of course. This is from Brooke and myself. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks for watching, everyone.